Thought he could treat me that way, he could just think again, and so on. I just raved and ranted, and he didn't say a thing. When I'd run out of steam, he got down on one knee." She stopped a moment, pressed her lips together. "Right there, in all that mess, he said he wanted a second chance. He needed one, and asked me to marry him. We were married that June. I wanted to be a June bride, and since I'd already missed the 30th birthday deadline, a couple more months didn't matter." "Did he ever talk about the time he was away?" "No. And I didn't ask. It didn't seem important. All he said was that he'd learned what it was like to be alone, really alone, and he didn't want to be alone again." Nate thought about the lines connecting the names on his list. Did he ever have a particular run-in, or a particular friendship with Bing? Bing? No, not a buddy sort of thing. Max tried to stay on his good side, especially since he knew Bing had asked me out. Bing? Asked me out is probably a euphemism. He wasn't interested in dining and dancing, if you follow me. And did you ever... No! She laughed, cutting herself off in midstream and looking shocked at herself. I haven't laughed. Not really since... It's terrible to laugh at this. The thought of you and Bing strikes me funny. How do you take being turned down? Oh, I don't think it was a big deal. She brushed it off with the back of her hand. I was handy, that's all. New female in the very small pack. Men like Bing would try to cut the new one out of the herd, see if he could get some sex and maybe a couple of home-cooked meals out of it. Nothing against him, it's natural enough in a place like this. He wasn't the only one who made moves. I went out with a few that first winter. Even the professor and I had dinner a couple times. Though it was plain as plain, he had a major crush on Charlene. That would be before Galloway left? Before, during, after? He's always had a thing for her. But we had dinner a couple of times, and he was a perfect gentleman. Maybe a little more gentlemanly than I was looking for, to tell the truth. But I wasn't looking for someone like Bing. Because? He's so big and crude and rough. I went out with John because I liked his looks and his intellect, and with Ed once because, well, why not? Even Otto after his divorce. A woman, even one who's not very pretty and past 30, has a lot of choices in a place like this if she's not too picky. I chose Max. She smiled into middle distance. I still would. Then brought herself back. I wish I could tell you more. Looking back, I guess I can see that Max was troubled. But he always seemed troubled when he worked on one of his books. He'd put them away for months and months at a time, and everything was normal. But as soon as he'd pull one out and start, he'd close in. I was happier when he forgot the books. Anyone ever make a move on you after you were married? No. I recall Bing telling me right in front of Max that I was selling myself short or cheap or something like that. And? Nothing. Max made a joke out of it, bought Bing a drink. He wasn't one for confrontations, Nate. Went miles out of the way to avoid one, which is one of the reasons I guess he didn't make it on a big city paper. You saw what he did when you brushed him off after you first got here. He went to Hop. That was his way. He wouldn't have come here for a showdown with you on his own because he just didn't have the tools for any sort of battle. He never did. Was Max a movie fan? Just about everyone in Lunacy is. One dependable form of community entertainment. He really loved doing reviews on what we had coming up. Speaking of movie night, I really do want a statement about what happened last night. Peach can give you the report for the log. I'll see her about that, but I think something like this will want to run more than an item. Otto found him, she began as she started to dig out a notebook. Yes. Give us a couple of days on this, Carrie. By then I should have something more cohesive to give you. Do you mean you expect to make an arrest shortly? Nate smiled. You've got your reporter hat right back on. What I mean is I'll have my notes, statements, the incident report coordinated. She rose. I'm glad my kids weren't there last night. I almost insisted they go, just so they'd get out and do something normal, but they had a couple of friends over for pizza instead. I'll check back with you tomorrow. I was just wondering, he said as he walked her to the door. Was Max a fan of Star Wars? She stared at him. Where did that come from? Just a dot I'm trying to connect. He wasn't. Not just that he wasn't a particular fan, which was baffling to me because he loved that sort of thing. Big epic stories with lots of special effects. But he wouldn't watch those. We had a Star Wars marathon on movie night about 6, 7 years ago. Well, whenever the 20th anniversary of the original was. He wouldn't go, and the kids were mad to go. I had to take them myself and write the reviews for the paper now that I think about it. When the new ones came out, I ended up taking the kids all the way to Anchorage to see them for the first run. He stayed home. What hat did you pull that one out of? Cop hat. He gave her a little nudge to urge her out. It's not important. You see Peach about the log item. Nate timed it so that he walked over to the lodge when Bing and his crew broke for lunch. He stepped inside as Rose served Bing a beer. His eyes met Bing's over it. He strolled over, nodded casually to the two men on the opposite side of the booth. You boys mind finding another table so Bing and I can have a private conversation? They didn't like it, but they picked up their coffee mugs and moved to the next empty booth. I got lunch coming, Bing began, and I got a right to eat it without you sitting here spoiling my appetite. See, you got that pothole filled in. Thanks, Rose, he said when she brought him his usual coffee. You ready for lunch, Chief? No, nothing right now. River's holding, he continued to Bing. Maybe we won't need those sandbags. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. February 1988. Where were you? How the living fuck do I know? Los Angeles Dodgers won the series. 49ers took the Super Bowl. Cher won an Oscar. Lower 48 crap. And Susan Butcher won her third Iditarod. Hell of a feat for a girl from Boston. Finished in 11 days in just under 12 hours. Maybe that refreshes your memory? It refreshes that I lost $200 on that race. Damn woman. So, what were you doing a few weeks before you lost the $2 bills? A man remembers losing $200 because of a woman. You don't necessarily remember every time he scratches his ass or takes a piss. You take any trips? I was coming and going as I damn well pleased then, same as now. Maybe you went down to Anchorage, saw Galloway there. I've been down to Anchorage more times than you can spit. Couple 100 miles doesn't mean anything up here. I might have seen him there a time or two. Seen plenty of people I know there. I do my business, and they do theirs. You play hard-ass on this, you'll be the one who pays for it. The heat burned into his eyes. You don't want to go threatening me. You don't want to go stonewalling me. Nate leaned back with his coffee. You figured you should be the one wearing this badge. Better than some chichaco, one that got his own partner killed. One that would have washed out if that thin blue line hadn't held him up. It seared straight into his gut, but he drank the coffee, held Bing's eyes. Been doing your homework, I see. But the fact is, I'm wearing the badge. I've got enough right now to take you in, charge you, and lock you up for what was done to that dog. I never touched that dog. If I were you, I'd put a little more effort into remembering where I was when Patrick Galloway left town. Why do you want to beat this dead horse, Burke? Make you feel important? Max killed Galloway and everybody knows it. Then it shouldn't bother you to verify your own whereabouts. Rose came over with a slab of meatloaf, a mountain of mashed potatoes, and a small sea of gravy. Anything else I can get for you, Bing? She set a bowl of snow peas and tiny onions beside the plate. Nate saw him struggle, watched him draw himself back. His voice was even a shade on the gentle side when he answered. No thanks, Rose. You enjoy that. Chief, just let me know if you want anything. I'm through talking to you, Bing said and forked up a huge bite of meatloaf. How about some lunchtime small talk, then? What do you think of Star Wars? Huh? You know, the movies. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. Fucking idiot, Bing mumbled under his breath and scooped up gravy-drenched potatoes. Star Wars, for Christ's sake. Let me eat in peace. Great story, memorable characters. Under all that jazz, it's about destiny and betrayal. It's about making a killing at the box office and merchandising. Bing waved his fork before he dug in again. Bunch of guys flying around in spaceships, whapping each other with light swords. Sabers. Light sabers. The thing is, it took some time, some sacrifice, some loss, but he slid out of the booth. The good guys won. See you around. 25. There were 11 seniors in the last period English Lit class. 9 of them were awake. John let the 2 snoozers catch their late afternoon catnap while one of the more alert mangled the bard's words in a reading of Lady Macbeth's out-damn-spot scene. He had enough on his mind, and supervising the discussion on Macbeth was only a small part of it. He'd been leading discussions like this for 25 years, since the first time he stepped nervously in front of a classroom of students. He'd only been a few years older than those he'd taught back then, and perhaps more innocent and eager than the majority of his students. He'd wanted to write great and awesome novels, filled with allegories on the human condition. He hadn't wanted to starve in a garret, so he'd taught. He'd written, though the novels were never as great or awesome as he'd hoped. He'd published a few. Without teaching, he might not have starved in that garret, but he wouldn't have eaten well. He'd felt the demands, and God help him the joys, of teaching overwhelming for the intellectual young man who wanted to write great novels. So he'd taken the leap, the brave and foolish leap, and had run to Alaska. There he would experience, he'd live simply, he'd study the human condition in that primitive place, that wide-open isolation it represented to him. He'd write novels about man's courage and tenacity, his follies and his triumphs. Then he'd come to lunacy. How could he have known, a young man not yet 30, the true meaning of obsession? How could he have understood, that bright, idealistic, and pathetic young man, that one place, one woman could chain him, could keep him willingly shackled no matter how they defied and denied his needs? He had fallen in love, become obsessed with. He was no longer sure there was a difference the moment he'd seen Charlene. Her beauty was like a golden willow, her voice a siren's song, her reckless and joyful sexuality. Everything about her enchanted and engulfed him. She was another man's woman, the mother of another man's child, but it made no difference. His love, if that's what it was, hadn't been the pure and romantic love of a valorous knight for a lady, but the lustful, sweaty need of a man for a woman. Hadn't he convinced himself she would cast Galloway off? He was careless with her, selfish. Even if he hadn't been blinded by love, John would have seen that, resented that. So he'd stayed and waited, changed the course of his life and waited. After everything he'd done, all his plans, his hopes, he was still waiting. His students got younger and younger, and the years died behind him. He could never get back what he'd cast away, what he'd wasted. And still, the single thing he wanted would not be his. He glanced at the clock, saw another day had gone to dust, then, catching a movement out of the corner of his eye, saw Nate leaning against the jamb of the open door of his classroom. "Your papers on Macbeth are due next Friday," he announced to a chorus of groans. "Kevin, I'll know if Marianne writes it for you. Those of you who are on the yearbook committee, remember there's a meeting tomorrow at 3:30. Make sure you've arranged transportation home, if necessary. Dismissed." There was the general clatter, shuffle, chatter he was so used to he no longer noticed. "What is it about high schools," Nate began, "that can make a grown man's palms sweat?" "Just because we survived the hell of it once doesn't mean we can't be thrown back into the pit." "Guess that's it." "You'd have done well enough, I'd wager," John said, as he packed some papers into his battered briefcase. "You've got the looks, the attitude. Decent enough student, I'd say. Did well with the girls. Athletic? What did you letter in?" "Track." Nate's lips curved. "Always could run." "You?" "Your classic nerd. The one that screwed the curve for the rest of the class." "That was you? I hated you." With his thumbs hooked in his pockets, Nate strolled in, looked at the notes on the blackboard. "Macbeth, huh? I got Shakespeare okay if somebody else read it. Out loud, I mean, so I could hear the words. This guy killed for a woman, right?" "No.
for ambition at the urging of a woman, with the seeds for it all planted by 3 more. He didn't get away with it. He paid, with his honor, with the loss of the woman he loved to madness, with his life. What goes around?
John nodded, lifted an eyebrow.
Did you drop by to discuss Shakespeare, Nate?
Nope. We're investigating the incident last night. I need to ask you some questions.
About Yukon. I was in town hall when it happened.
What time did you get there?
A few minutes before 7.
He glanced over absently as some of the liberated students raced laughing down the hall.
Actually, I'm doing an extracurricular group on Hitchcockian storytelling for the 10th through 12th graders. Get some of the kids involved, earns them extra credit. A dozen of my students signed up for it.
Did you go out between 7 and 10?
I went out at intermission, had a smoke, got some of the punch the elementary school committee was selling, which was more palatable when I doctored it.
Where were you sitting?
Toward the back, opposite side from my students. I didn't want to inhibit them or be barraged with questions. I was taking notes on the movies.
In the dark?
Yes, that's right. Just a few key points I wanted to make sure to bring forward in discussion. I'd like to help you on this, but I don't see how I can.
He walked over to lower the blinds on the room's single window.
After Otto came in, after we knew what had happened, I went back to the lodge. I was upset. We all were. Charlene, Skinny Jim, and Big Mike were running the place.
Who was there?
Mitch Dauber and Cliff Treat, Drunk Mike, a couple of hikers.
As he spoke, he policed the room, gathering up dropped pencils, crumpled balls of paper, a hair clip.
I got a drink. Meg and Otto came in shortly, and after things settled down a little, we played some poker. We were still playing when you got there.
Nate nodded and put away the notebook he'd pulled out. John tossed the paper in the trash, put the other items in a shoebox on his desk.
I don't know anybody who'd do that to a dog, especially Yukon.
Nobody else seems to either. Nate glanced around the classroom. It smelled like chalk, he thought, and that teenage perfume of gum, lip gloss, and hair gel. Do you ever take time off during the school year? Give yourself a break and just head out?
I've been known to. Mental health breaks, I'd call them. Why?
I'm wondering if you took a mental health break back in February of 1988. Behind his lenses, John's eyes went cool.
It would be hard to say.
Try.
Should I be talking to a lawyer, Chief Burke?
That would be up to you. I'm just trying to get a picture of where everyone was, what everyone was up to when Patrick Galloway was killed.
Shouldn't the state police be the ones trying to get that picture? And if I'm not mistaken, haven't they drawn their conclusions?
I like my own drawings. You wouldn't say it was a secret that you've been, let's say, partial to Charlene for a long time?
No.
After taking off his glasses, John began to polish them, slowly, thoroughly, with a handkerchief from his jacket pocket.
I wouldn't say it's a secret.
And were partial to her when she was with Galloway.
I had feelings, strong feelings for her, yes. They hardly did me any good as she married someone else less than a year after Galloway left.
Was murdered, Nate corrected.
Yes.
He replaced his glasses.
Was murdered.
Did you ask her?
She said no. She said no every time I've asked her.
But she slept with you.
You're treading on very personal ground now.
She slept with you, Nate continued, but she married someone else. Slept with you while she was married to someone else. And not just you.
That's private, as much as anything can be in a place like this. I'm not going to discuss it with you.
Love's a kind of ambition, isn't it? Nate tapped a finger on the copy of Macbeth, still sitting on John's desk. Men kill for it.
Men kill. Half the time they don't need any excuse.
Can't argue with that. Sometimes they get away with it. More often they don't. I'd appreciate it if you'd think back, and when you remember where you were that February, you let me know. He started for the door, turned back. Oh, I wondered, did you ever read any of the books Max Hawbaker started?
No. though his voice was calm. A dull anger still rode in his eyes. He was secretive about them. A lot of aspiring writers are. I had the impression he talked about writing a book more than he actually wrote. Turns out he started a few. I've got the copies. They all sort of circle around to the same thing. A theme, I guess you'd call it. That's not atypical for a fledgling writer either. Even an experienced one will explore a theme from several angles. His seems to be about men surviving nature, and each other. Or not surviving. Always ends up being 3 men, no matter how many it starts out with. Comes down to 3. The one he did the most on is about 3 men climbing a mountain, in the winter. Nate jingled loose change in his pocket when John remained silent. He only had a few chapters complete, but he had notes on the rest, like an outline or scattered scenes he was going to plug in. 3 men go up the mountain, only 2 come back. Nate paused a moment. A lot of novels are autobiographical, aren't they? Some, John said evenly. It's often a device used for a first novel. Interesting, isn't it? It'd be even more interesting to find out who that 3rd man was. Well, I'll be around. You let me know if you recall where you were that February. John stood where he was until Nate's footsteps stopped echoing down the hall. Then he sat, slowly, at his desk, and saw his hands were shaking. Nate walked in on an informal meeting at Town Hall. He did so deliberately and wasn't surprised when conversation snapped off when he came in the door. Sorry to interrupt. He scanned the faces of the town council, faces he'd come to know. More than one of them registered embarrassment. I can wait until you're finished if you want. I think we're about wrapped up here, Hop said. I disagree. Ed planted his Vosk sundowners on the floor, folded his arms over his chest. I don't think we've resolved anything, and I think this meeting should continue, and, I'm sorry, Chief, remain closed until things are resolved. Ed, Deb leaned forward. We've hashed this around 6 dozen ways. Let's give it a rest. I move we continue. Oh, move it up your ass, Ed. Joe Wise got to his feet. Joe. Hop jabbed a finger at him. We're informal here, but that doesn't mean we're going to start a rumble. Since Ignatius is here and his name's come up in this meeting, let's get his input. I agree. Ken rose, dragged another chair into the circle they'd formed. Have a seat, Nate. Listen, he said before anyone could object. This is our chief of police. He should be a part of this. The fact is, Ignatius, we're discussing recent events, and your handling of them. Okay. I take it some aren't satisfied with my handling of them? Well, the fact is, Harry scratched his head, there've been some rumblings around town that we've had more trouble here since we hired you than before. Seems like we have. Not that I see how that's your fault, but it seems like we have. It might have been a mistake. Ed firmed his jaw. I'll say that right to your face. It might have been a mistake to hire you, anyone, for that matter, from outside. The reasons for going outside were valid, Walter Noddy reminded him. Chief Burke has done, he's doing, the job he was hired to do. That may be, Walter, that may be. But, Ed held up his hands, it could be some of the less lawful elements of this town look at that as a kind of dare. So they're more active, you could say. People around here don't like being told what to do. We voted to have a police force, Hop reminded him. I know that, Hop, and I was one who voted aye. Right here in this room. I'm not saying Nate's to blame for the way it's worked out. I'm saying it was a mistake. Our mistake. I'm stitching up the Mackies less often since Nate got here, Ken put in. I had less patients coming in than usual for treatment after fights, less domestic violence. Last year, Drunk Mike was brought in twice with frostbite after somebody found him passed out on the side of the road. This year, he's still going on benders, but he's sleeping them off safe in a cell. I don't think we can blame having a police force for you getting your equipment stolen, Ed, or your shack graffitied. Deb spread her hands.
We can't blame having law for Holly getting his tires slashed or for windows being broke at the school or any of that stuff. I say we blame it on parents not sitting hard enough on their kids.
A kid didn't kill my dog. Joe looked apologetically at Nate. I agree with what Deb said, and with what Walter and Ken said before that, but a kid didn't do that to Yukon. No, Nate said. It wasn't a kid.
I don't think hiring you was a mistake, Nate, Deb continued. But I think we've all got a responsibility to this town, and we ought to know how you're handling it, what you're doing to find out who's doing these things and who did that to Yukon.
That's fair. Some of the incidents mentioned may very well have been kids. The broken windows at the school certainly were, and since one of them was careless enough to drop his penknife, they've been identified. I talked to them and their parents yesterday. Restitution will be made and both of them will get a 3-day suspension, during which time I doubt they're going to have a real good time. You didn't charge them? Ed demanded.
They were 9 and 10, Ed. I didn't think locking them in a cell was the answer.
A lot of us, he said, remembering the sealed juvenile file on Ed's record, do stupid things, get in trouble with the law when we're kids.
If they did that, maybe they did the other things, Deb suggested.
They didn't. They got set down in school by their teacher, broke a couple of windows. They sure as hell didn't hike all the way out to Ed's ice shack, or sneak out of the house at night and walk the 2 miles to Holly's to slash his tires and spray paint all over his truck. You want my input? Your trouble didn't start since you hired me. Your trouble started 16 years ago when somebody killed Patrick Galloway. That's something that's shaken everybody up, Harry said, nodding to the others around the room. Even those of us who didn't know him. But I don't see what it has to do with what we're discussing here. I think it does. So that's how I'm handling it.
I don't follow you, Deb said.
Whoever killed Galloway is still here. Whoever killed Galloway, Nate continued as everyone began talking at once, killed Max Hawbaker. Max killed himself, Ed interrupted. He killed himself because he killed Pat. Somebody wants you to believe that. I don't. That's just crazy talk, Nate. Harry pushed back air with both hands. Just crazy talk.
Crazier than Max killing Pat? Deb rubbed her fingers over her throat. Crazier than Max killing himself? I don't know.
Quiet!
Hop held up both hands and shouted over the noise.
Just quiet down a damn minute. Ignatius?
She drew a breath.
You're saying that someone we know is killed twice?
3 times. His gaze was flinty as it scanned the room. 2 men and an old dog. My department is investigating and will continue to investigate until this individual is identified and arrested. The state police, Joe began. Whatever the findings and the opinion of the state authorities, my department will investigate. I swore to protect and serve this town, and I will. Part of that investigation will require each one of you to account for your whereabouts and activities last night between 9 and 10 p.m.
Us?
Ed bellowed it. You're gonna question us? That's right. In addition, I'm going to be looking for the whereabouts and activities of everyone during the month of February 1988. You! Ed blustered to a halt, then gripping the edge of his chair, pushed himself forward. You intend to question us as suspects? This is over the top. This is beyond belief. I'm not going to be subjected to this or have my family and my neighbors subjected to this. You're exceeding your authority. I don't think so. But you guys can vote to cancel my contract, pay me off. I'll still investigate. I'll still find the person responsible. That's what I do. He rose. I find the people responsible. So you can have your meetings, your votes, your discussions. You can take my badge. I'll still find the one responsible. That's the only person who has to worry about me. He strode out, leaving the raised voices and insulted faces behind. Hop caught up with him on the sidewalk.
Ignatius, wait a minute. Wait just a minute.
She snapped when he kept walking.
Damn it!
He stopped, jiggling the keys in his pocket. She scowled up at him as she finished pulling on her coat.
You sure know how to liven up a town council meeting.
Am I fired?
Not yet, but I sure don't think you won any popularity votes in there.
She tugged the hip-length coat, the color of a Concord grape closed.
You might have been a little more tactful about it.
Murder's one of those things that short-circuits all my tact switches. Then there's the matter of walking in on a meeting where my professional status is being questioned.
All right. Maybe that was poorly done.
If you or anyone else has a problem with how I'm doing the job, you should have come to me with it.
You're right.
She pinched the bridge of her nose.
We're all upset. We're all on edge. And now you've dumped this in our laps. Nobody liked thinking Max had done what it seemed clear he'd done, but it was a hell of a lot easier to think that than what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting it. I'm saying it, flat out. I'm going to find out what I need to know, however long it takes, and whoever I have to step on along the way. She pulled her cigarettes and lighter out of her coat pocket.
I can see that plain enough.
Where were you 16 years ago, Hop?
Me?
Her eyes popped wide.
For Christ's sake, Ignatius, you don't honestly think I climbed up No Name with Pat and stuck an ice axe in him? He was twice my size.
But not your husband's. You're a tough-minded woman, Hop. You've done a lot around here to preserve your husband's vision. You might do a lot to protect his name.
That's a filthy thing to say to me. A filthy thing to say about a man you didn't even know.
I didn't know Galloway either. You did. Fury covered her face as she took a step back. She turned away, marched back into town hall. The door slammed like a cannon shot behind her. He knew murmurs and mutters would be going around, so Nate decided to stay visible. He had his dinner at the lodge. From the glances tossed his way, he imagined the statements he'd made at the meeting were making their way around Lunacy's frosty grapevine. And that was fine. It was time to shake things up. Charlene brought his salmon special to the booth herself, then slid in across from him.
You've sure got people wondering and worried.
Do I?
I'm one of them.
She picked up his coffee, sipped, then wrinkled her nose.
I don't know how anybody can drink this without sweetening it up some.
He pushed the dispenser of sugar packets over. Help yourself if you want it.
I will.
She tore open 2 packets of Sweet and Low, poured it in, and stirred it up. She was wearing a shimmery gray shirt, the sort that clung to a woman's curves, and had scooped back her hair to show off dangling silver earrings. After tapping the spoon on the side of the mug, she sampled.
That's better.
Then she kept both hands around the mug as she leaned intimately toward Nate.
When I first found out about Pat, I went a little crazy inside. I'd have been ready to believe you if you told me Skinny Jim had put that axe in him, and he didn't come along until 5 or 6 years after Pat had been gone. But I've calmed down some.
That's good, Nate said and continued to eat.
Maybe knowing I can bring him back here and bury him when the ground is ready helped. I like you, Nate, even though you wouldn't give me a tumble. I like you well enough to tell you you're not doing anybody any good with all this.
Nate slathered butter on a roll. And what would all this consist of, Charlene?
You know what I'm saying. This talk about us having a murderer running around. Something like that gets whispered about enough. People might start to believe it. It's bad for business. The tourists aren't going to come here if they think they could get murdered in their beds.
Sissy, he called with his eyes still on Charlene's. Can I get another cup of coffee here? Is that what it comes down to, Charlene? It comes down to money? To your profit and loss statement?
We've got to make a living here. We've got...
She broke off as Sissy set another mug on the table, filled it with coffee.
You need anything else, Nate?
No, thanks.
We do a lot of business here over the summer. We've got to if we don't want to live on the PFD all winter, and winter's long. I've got to be practical, Nate. Pat's gone. Max killed him. I'm not letting myself hold that against Carrie. I wanted to, but I'm not letting myself. She's lost her man, too. But Max killed Pat. God knows why. But he did.
She picked up her coffee again, sipped it while she gazed out the dark window.
Pat took him up there. Some wild hare, I expect. Max looking for a story or article or some shit, and Pat figuring he could have an adventure and make a few dollars. The mountain can make you crazy. That's what happened.
When he said nothing, she touched a hand to his.
I've thought about it, like you asked me to, and I remember that Max didn't come in here for damn near a month that winter. Maybe more. Back then, this was the only place for miles in any direction you could get a hot meal, and he was a regular. I used to wait on him almost every night, but he didn't come in. Absently, she reached over, broke a small chunk off Nate's dinner roll. He called in orders a few times, she said as she nibbled on bread. We didn't do deliveries, still don't, but Carl, he was soft-hearted. He ran the food over to the paper himself. He told me Max looked sick and a little crazy. I didn't pay any attention. I was brooding over Pat and busy trying to make ends meet. But you told me to think back, and I did, and I remember that.
All right.
You aren't paying attention to me.
I heard everything you said. He met her eyes. Who else didn't come in much that February?
She let out an impatient breath. I don't know, Nate. I only thought about Max because he's dead, and because I was remembering all of a sudden that Carrie and I both got married that summer, the summer after Pat was gone. That's what made me think of it.
Okay. Now think about people who are still alive.
I think about you. She laughed, waved a hand. Oh, don't get all tight-assed. A woman's got a right to think about a good-looking man.
Not when he's in love with her daughter.
Love?
She began to drum her fingers on the table.
Well, you are just out for all sorts of trouble, aren't you? Taking on the town council so everybody's looking at you sideways, getting Ed and Hop all pissed off. Now talking about loving Meg? She hasn't kept a man more than a month since she figured out what to do with one.
I guess that means I hold the current record.
She'll chomp a piece out of your heart, then spit it right in your face.
My heart, my face. Why does it bother you, Charlene?
I've got bigger needs than she does. Bigger, stronger needs.
Her earrings spun and glinted when she tossed her head.
Meg doesn't need anything or anyone. She never did. She made it clear a long time ago she didn't need me. She'll make it clear soon enough that she doesn't need you.
That may be. Or it may end up I make her happy. Maybe that's what bothers you. The idea she might end up happy, and you can't quite get there. His hand snaked out, gripped her wrist before she could hurl the coffee in his face. Think again, he said quietly. A scene's going to embarrass you a lot more than me. She jumped violently out of the booth and stalked across the room, up the stairs. For the second time that day, Nate heard the bullet shot of a slammed door, and in its echo, he finished his dinner. He drove out to Meg's, hoping his blood would cool and his brain clear by the time he got there. The gloom of the past few days had lifted, leaving brilliant stars in a black glass sky. A slice of moon rode over the trees, and a shimmery fog slithered low to the ground. Bare branches on the trees, Nate noticed. The snow was still thick on the ground, but the branches had shaken off the snow. A part of the road was still flooded, so he had to ease his way around the barricade and through the foot of standing water. He heard a wolf call, lonely and insistent. It might be hunting, he thought, for food, for a mate. When it killed for purpose, not for greed, not for sport. When it mated, he'd read, it mated for life. The sound died off as he drove through the night. He could see the smoke rise from Meg's chimney, hear the soar of her music. Lenny Kravitz this time, he thought, rocking on mists of doom and fields of pain. He parked behind her, then just sat. He wanted this, he realized. Wanted it maybe more than he should. To come home. To deal with the day, then shake it off and come home to music and light, to a woman. The woman. Hearth and home, Meg had said. Well, she'd nailed him. So if he ended up with that chunk of his heart spat in his face, he had no one to blame but himself. She opened the door as he walked up, and the dogs rushed out to dance around him. Hi! Wondered if you'd find your way to my door tonight. She cocked her head. You look a little rough around the edges, Chief. What you been up to? Winning friends, influencing people. Well, come on inside, cutie, have a drink and tell me all about it. Don't mind if I do. Light. Is it so small a thing to have enjoyed the sun, to have lived light in the spring, to have loved, to have thought, to have done, to have advanced true friends and beat down baffling foes? Matthew Arnold. We burn daylight. William Shakespeare. 26.
Chief.
Peach offered him a sticky bun and a cup of coffee almost before he got in the door. You know, you keep baking these things, I'm not going to be able to sit in my desk chair.
It'd take more than a few sticky buns to poke up that cute little behind. Besides, it's a bribe. I need to ask if I can take an extra hour for lunch tomorrow. I'm on the May Day planning committee. We're going to meet tomorrow and try to finish coordinating the parade.
Parade?
May Day parade, Nate. It's on your calendar, not that far off.
May, he thought. He'd played with the dogs a bit that morning in Meg's yard, in snow up to the tops of his boots. That'd be May 1st.
Come hell or high water, and we've had the parade in both. School band marches, the natives wear their traditional dress and play traditional instruments, all the sports teams are in it, and Dolly Manners' dance classes. More people who live here participate in it than watch it, but we get tourists and outside folk come in from all over.
She fussed with the vase of plastic daffodils on her counter.
It's a good time. In the past couple of years, we've done some advertising. We did even more this year, drumming up media interest and whatnot. Charlene puts it on the lodge's webpage and does package deals. And hot pushed and got us included in the events page of a couple magazines.
No kidding. Pretty hot stuff.
Well, it is. It's a full-day event. We have a bonfire and more music that night. Weather's too bad we moved that to the lodge.
You have a bonfire in the lodge. She punched his arm playfully.
Just the music.
Take whatever time you need. Big parade, Nate thought. Bookings at the lodge, meals served, customers in the corner store, browsing the local artists and craftsmen's work. More money, more business at the bank, the gas station, more business, period. That could be cut considerably by too much talk of murder. He glanced over when Otto came in. Isn't it your day off?
Yeah.
Nate could see something in his eye, but played it light. You come by for the sticky buns?
No.
Otto held out a manila envelope.
I wrote up where I was, what I was doing and so forth in February of '88, on the night Max died, and when Yukon got killed. Thought it'd be better all around if I put it down before you had to ask me.
Why don't you come back to my office?
Don't need to. I got no problem with this.
He puffed out his cheeks.
A little problem, maybe, but less doing it like this than having you ask. I don't have much of an alibi for any of the three situations, but I wrote it down.
Nate set down the bun to take the envelope. I appreciate it, Otto.
Well, I'm going fishing.
He left, passing Peter on the way out.
Hell,
Nate muttered.
You're in a tight spot. Peach gave him a little rub on the arm. You've got to do what you got to do, even if it means hurting feelings and getting danders up.
You're not wrong.
Peter looked back and forth between them. Something wrong with Otto?
I hope not. Peter started to follow up, but Peach gave a quick shake of her head.
Well, the reason I'm late is my uncle came by this morning. He wanted to tell me there's a guy squatting north of town by Hopeless Creek. There's an old cabin there. It looks like he's moved in. Nobody'd care much except my uncle thinks he may have broken into his work shed. And my aunt says there's food missing from the cache.
He grabbed the sticky bun, bit in.
My uncle, went by it to check it out this morning before he came to see me, and he says the guy came out with a shotgun and ordered him off his property. Since he had my cousin Mary with him, taking her into school, he didn't hang around to reason with the guy.
All right, we'll go reason with him. Nate set his untouched coffee and Otto's envelope on the counter, then went to the weapon cabinet and got 2 shotguns and ammo. Just in case reason doesn't work, he told Peter. The sun was bright and hard. It seemed impossible that only a few weeks before he'd have made this trip in the dark. The river wound beside the road, cold blue, forming a keen edge of color against the snow that still lined its banks. The mountains stood clear as monuments carved in glass against the sky. He saw an eagle perched on a mile marker post, like a golden guard to the forest behind him. How long's his cabin been empty?
Nobody's lived in it officially, as long as I can remember. It's run down and built too close to the creek, so it floods out every spring. Hikers might use it for a night now and then, and, kids might use it for, Chimney's still standing, so it'll hold a fire. Smoke's something awful, though.
Meaning you've used it for, Even as he smiled, color edged Peter's cheekbones.
Maybe once or twice. What I heard was a couple of Chichacos built it way back, going to live off the land, pan the creek for gold. Figured they'd get by on subsistence, and after a year start collecting their PFD. Didn't know squat. One of them froze to death, the other went crazy with cabin fever. Maybe ate some of the dead guy.
Lovely.
Probably just bullshit, but it adds to it when you're taking a girl there.
Yeah, pretty romantic stuff.
You want to turn off up there, Peter pointed. It's a little rough going.
After about 3 yards bumping and grinding his way along the narrow snow-packed rut, Nate decided Peter was the master of understatement. The trees were thick and smote out the sun, so it was like driving through a tunnel paved by sadistic ice demons. He rolled his tongue back so it wouldn't get in the way of his teeth when they snapped together and muscled the wheel. He wouldn't have called it a clearing. The dilapidated square of logs hunched in a hacked-out square of trash willows and spindly evergreen on the icy bank of the spit of creek. It huddled there in the shadows, one window boarded, the other crisscrossed with duct tape. A sagging length of porch sat over a few stacked cinder blocks. A filthy Lexus four-wheel drive with California tags stood in front. "Call Peach. Have her run those tags, Peter." While Peter used the radio, Nate debated. There was smoke puffing sluggishly out of the tilted chimney, and a dead mammal of some sort hung nastily over a post by the door. Nate unsnapped his weapon but left it holstered as he eased out of the car.
"That's far enough!"
The cabin door swung open. In the dimness, Nate could see the man and the shotgun.
I'm Chief Burke, Lunacy Police. I'm gonna ask you to lower that weapon.
I don't care who you say you are or what you say you want. I'm onto your tricks, you alien bastards. I'm not going back up there.
Aliens, Nate thought. Perfect.
The alien forces in this sector have been defeated. You're safe here now, but I need you to lower your weapon.
So you say.
But he eased out another foot.
How do I know you're not one of them?
Early 30s, Nate estimated. 5'10", 150. Brown hair, wild eyes, color undetermined.
I have my ID, stamped and certified after testing. You lower that weapon so I can approach. I'll show it to you.
ID?
He looked confused now, and the shotgun lowered an inch.
Underground Earth Forces certified.
Nate tried a sober nod.
Can't be too careful these days.
They bleed blue, you know. I got 2 of them the last time they took me.
2?
Nate lifted his eyebrows as if duly impressed and watched the gun lower another inch.
You're gonna need to be debriefed. We'll get you back to control. Get your statement on record.
We can't let them win.
We won't.
The gun barrel angled toward the ground, and Nate stepped forward. It happened too fast. It always happened too fast. He heard Peter open the car door, say his name. He was watching the man's face, his eyes, and he saw it come into them. Panic, rage, terror all at once. He was already cursing, already ordering Peter to get down. Get down! As he cleared his weapon from the holster. The shotgun blast shook the air, sent some birds screaming in the trees. A second pumped out as Nate dived for cover under the car. He was set to roll out the other side when he saw the blood on the snow.
Oh, God! Oh, Jesus Christ, Peter!
His body went to lead, and for an endless moment he shook under the weight of it. He could smell the alley, the rain, overripe garbage, blood. His breath came too fast, the high edge of panic making his head light, the bitter wash of despair turning his throat to dust. He carried it all with him as he crawled through the snow. Peter was sprawled behind the open door of the car, his eyes wide and glassy.
I think I'm shot.
Hold on. Nate clamped a hand over Peter's arm where his jacket was torn and bloody. He could feel the warm flow and the anvil slam of his own heart in his chest. With one eye cocked toward the cabin, he dug out a bandana. If there were prayers running inside his head, he didn't recognize them.
"It's not too bad, is it?"
Peter moistened his lips, angled his head down to look, and went white as bone.
"Man!"
"Listen to me. Listen." Nate tied the bandana tight over the wound, tapped Peter's cheek to keep him from passing out. "You stay down. You're going to be all right." "Not going to bleed out on me," he thought. "Not going to die in my arms. Not again. Please, God." He pulled Peter's weapon out of the holster, closed Peter's hand around it. "You got this?"
I'm right-handed. He shot me."
"You can use your left. He gets by me, you don't hesitate. Listen to me, Peter. He comes out here, you shoot. Aim for body mass, and you shoot until he's down." "Chief, just do it!" Nate bellied back to the rear of the car, opened the door and slid in. He slid out again with both shotguns. He could hear the man inside the house, raving, the occasional blast of fire. He could hear the sounds of the alley merging with it, the rain, the shouts, the running footsteps. He bellied back to Peter, laid one of the shotguns over his lap. "You don't pass out. Hear me? You stay awake."
"Yes, sir."
There was no one to call for backup. This wasn't Baltimore, and he was on his own. Crouched, the shotgun in one hand, his service revolver in the other, he dashed across the icy stream and into the trees. Bark exploded. He felt the knife splice of a flying splinter hit his face just under his left eye. That meant the shooter's attention was on him now, and away from Peter. In the cover of trees, he plowed through the snow. His partner was shot. His partner was down. His breath whistled out as he tried to run through knee-deep snow, circling the cabin. Braced behind a tree, he studied the layout. No back door, he noted, but another window on the side. He could see the shadow of the shooter on the glass, knew he was waiting there, watching for movement. Nate pumped the shotgun, one-handed, and fired. Glass exploded, and with that sound the screams, the return fire filling his ears. He used his own tracks to run back toward the front of the cabin. Shouts and shots sounded behind him as he cracked through the ice of the stream, scrambled through the frigid water, and leapt toward the front of the house. He barreled onto the sagging porch and kicked open the door. He had both weapons pointed at the man. Part of him, most of him, wanted to cut loose with them. Drop him cold, as he had the murdering bastard in Baltimore. The murdering bastard who'd killed his partner and ripped his own life to pieces.
"Red."
In the shambles of the cabin, the man looked at him. His lips trembled into a smile.
"Your blood's red."
And dropping the gun, he fell to the filthy cabin floor and wept. His name was Robert Joseph Spinnaker, a financial consultant from L.A., and recent psychiatric patient. He'd claimed multiple alien abductions over the past 18 months, stated that his wife was a reproduction, and had attacked 2 of his clients during a meeting. He'd been listed as missing for nearly 3 months. Now he slept peacefully in a cell, reassured by the color of the blood on Nate's face and Peter's arm. Nate had done little more than lock him up before he'd rushed back to the clinic so he could pace the waiting room. He went over the entire event 100 times, and each time he saw himself doing something different, just a little different, that kept Peter from being hurt. When Ken came out, Nate was sitting, his head in his hands. He jerked up immediately. "How bad?"
"Getting shot's never good, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. He'll be wearing a sling for a while. He's lucky it was birdshot. He's a little weak, a little groggy. I'm going to keep him a couple more hours, but he's good."
"Okay." Nate let his knees give way and lowered to the chair again. "Okay."
"Why don't you come back? Let me clean those cuts on your face."
"Just some scratches."
"The one under your eye's more of a gash. Come on. Don't argue with the doctor."
"Can I see him?"
"Nita's with him now. You can see him after I treat you."
Ken led the way, gestured for Nate to get on an exam table.
"You know,"
he said as he cleaned the cuts,
"it'd be stupid for you to blame yourself."
"He's green. He's grass, and I took him into an unstable situation."
"That's not showing much respect for him or the job he signed on to do."
Nate hissed in a breath at the sting under his eye.
"He's a baby." "He's not. He's a man, a good man. And you taking on the weight lessens what happened to him today, and what he did."
He got up, broke cover, and got to the door after me. He could barely keep his feet, but he came to back me up. Nate met Ken's eyes, as Ken fixed on a butterfly bandage. His blood was on my hands, but he came through the door to back me up. So maybe I'm the one who can't handle himself.
You did handle yourself. I got most of it from Peter. He thinks you're a hero. If you want to pay him back for what happened, don't disillusion him. There. Ken stepped back. You'll live.
Hop was in the waiting room when Nate came out, along with Peter's parents and Rose. They all stood, began talking at once.
He's resting. He's fine,
Ken assured them, and Nate kept walking.
Ignatius.
Hop hurried out after him.
I'd like to know what happened.
I'm walking back.
And I'll walk with you, and you can tell me. I'd like to get it straight from you rather than the various accounts blowing around town at this point.
He told her, briefly.
Would you slow down? Your legs are longer than my whole body. How'd your face get hurt?
Tree shrapnel. Flying bark, that's all.
Flying because he was shooting at you? For God's sake.
The fact my face got cut up is probably why both Spinnaker and I are still standing. Fortunately, I bleed red. So does Peter, he thought. He'd bled plenty of red today.
The state police coming to get him?
Peach is contacting them.
Well,
she drew a breath.
He's been out and about being crazy for 3 months, squatting out there God knows how long. He could be the one who killed poor Yukon. He could be the one who did that.
Nate found his sunglasses in his pocket and put them on. He could be, but he's not.
Man's crazy, and it was a crazy thing. He could have thought Yukon was some alien in a dog suit. It makes sense, Ignatius.
Only if you believe this guy happened to sneak into town, hunt up an old dog, brought the dog outside town hall and sliced his throat, having previously stolen the buck knife. That's a little too broad for me, Hop. She took his arm so he'd stop.
Maybe because you'd rather believe otherwise. Maybe because believing otherwise is giving you something to get your teeth into. More than breaking up a few fights or keeping drunk Mike from freezing his sorry ass. Did it ever occur to you that you're tying all this together, looking for a killer among us because you want it to be so?
I don't want it to be so. It is so.
Damn stubborn.
She set her teeth, turned to the side until she controlled her temper.
Things won't settle down around here if you keep stirring them up.
Things shouldn't settle down around here until they're resolved. I've got to go write up my report on this. Nate spent the night in the station, most of it listening to Spinnaker's earnest reports of his alien experiences. To keep him calm, if not quiet, Nate sat outside the cell, making notes, and was deeply thrilled to see the state police arrive the next morning to relieve him of his prisoner. He was also surprised to see Coben on the detail. Maybe you should consider renting a room down here, Sergeant. I figured this would be an opportunity to touch base on other matters. If we could take a minute in your office? Sure. I've got the paperwork on Spinnaker for you. He walked into his office, picked up the paperwork. Assault with deadly on police officers, etc. The shrink will soften that up, but it won't make my deputy any less shot. How's he doing? He's okay. He's young, resilient. He caught him mostly in the meaty part of the arm. Anytime you walk away, it's a good day. There's that. Coben walked over to the board. Still pursuing this? Looks like. Making any headway? Depends on where you're standing. Lips pursed, Coben rocked back on his heels. Dead dog? You're linking that? Man's gotta have a hobby. Look, I'm not fully satisfied with the resolution of my case, but I've got restrictions on me. A lot of it does depend on where you're standing. We can agree there was an unidentified third man on that mountain when Galloway was killed. Doesn't mean he killed Galloway or had knowledge thereof. Doesn't mean he's still alive for that matter, as it's more logical that the individual who killed Galloway also disposed of this third man. Not if the third man was Hallbaker. We don't believe it was. But if it was, Coben continued, it sure as hell doesn't mean this unidentified third man had anything to do with Hallbaker's death. Or the death of some dog. I've got a little wiggle room, unofficially, to confirm the identity of the third man, but it's not taking me anywhere. The pilot who took them up was killed in unexplained circumstances. There's no proof of that. I've looked into it. Kaczynski paid off some debts and made some more during the period between Galloway's death and his own. So that's hinky. I'll give you that. But there's no one to confirm he took them up. Because all but one of them's dead. There are no records, no flight logs, no nothing. And nobody who knew Kaczynski, or will admit to it, who remembers him booking that flight. He may very well have been the pilot, and if so, it's just as logical to assume Hawbaker disposed of him as well.
Might be logical, except Max Hawbaker didn't kill 3 men. And he didn't come back from the grave and slit that dog's throat.
It doesn't matter what your gut tells you. I need something solid.
Give me time, Nate said. 2 days later, Meg strolled into the station, flipped a wave at Peach, and went straight back to Nate's office. A glance at his board barely broke her stride. Okay, cutie, I'm springing you. Sorry? Even thoughtful, dedicated, hard-working cops get a day off. You're due. Peter's on inactive. We're a man short. And you're sitting here brooding about that and everything else. You need head-clearing time, Burke. If something comes up, we'll head back. From where? It's a surprise. Peach, she called as she started back out. Your boss is taking the rest of the day off. What do they call it on NYPD Blue? Personal time? He could use some. You can cover it, can't you, Otto? Meg, Nate began. Peach, when's the last time the chief took a day off? 3 weeks, a little more, by my recollection. Head clearing time, Chief. Meg grabbed his jacket off the hook herself. We've got a clear day for it. He took one of the 2 ways. An hour. She smiled. We'll start with that. When he spotted her plane at the dock, he stopped dead. You didn't say this head-clearing time involved flying. It's the best method, guaranteed. Couldn't we just take a drive, have sex in the back seat of the car? I find that's a really good method. Trust me. She kept his hand firmly in hers and used her other to brush the cut under his eye. How's that feeling? Now that you mention it, I probably shouldn't fly with a wound like this. She cupped his face, leaned in and kissed him, long, slow, and deep. Come with me, Nate. I have something I want to share with you. Well, when you put it that way. He got in the plane, strapped in. You know, I've never taken off from the water. Not when the water was wet. There's still some ice. It wouldn't be good to run into the ice, right? A man who faces down an armed mental patient shouldn't be so jittery about flying. She kissed her fingers, tapped them on Buddy Holly's lips, and began to glide over the water. Sort of like water skiing, but not, Nate managed, then held his breath as she gained speed, kept holding it as the plane lifted off the water. I thought you were working today, he said when he decided it was safe to breathe again. I passed it to Jerk. He'll be dropping off supplies later. We've got parade stuff coming in, including a whole case of bug dope. You and Jerk run drugs for insects? She slid her eyes in his direction. Insect repellent, cutie. You survived your first Alaska winter. Now we'll see how you fare in the summer, with mosquitoes as big as B-52s. You won't want to walk 3 feet out of the house without your bug dope. Roger on the bug dope, but I'm not eating Eskimo ice cream. Jessie says it's made from whipped seals. Oil, she said on a laugh. Seal oil or moose tallow. And it's not bad if you mix in some berries and sugar. I'll take your word because I'm not eating moose tallow. I don't even know what the hell it is. She smiled again because his shoulders had relaxed, and he was actually looking down. Pretty from here, isn't it? With the river, the ice, and the town all lined up behind it. It looks quiet and simple. But it's not. It's not really either of those. The bush looks quiet, too, from the air, peaceful and serene, a harsh kind of beauty, but it's not serene. Nature will kill you without a minute's thought, and in nastier ways than a crazy guy with a gun. Doesn't make her any less beautiful. I couldn't live anywhere else. I couldn't be anywhere else. She soared over river and lake, and he could see the progress of breakup, the steady march of spring, patches of green spread as the sun worked on the snow. A waterfall rushed down a cliffside with the sparkle of ice gleaming out of deep shadows. Below them, a small herd of moose lumbered across a field. Above, the sky curved like a wild blue ribbon. Jacob was here that February. Meg glanced at him. I wanted to get that out of the way. Maybe off both our minds. He came to see me a lot when my father was gone. I don't know if my father asked him to, or if it was just Jacob's way. There might have been a couple of days here and there I didn't see him, but not as much as a week at a stretch. Not a long enough time for him to have climbed with my father. I wanted you to know that, for certain, in case you needed to ask him to help you. It was a long time ago. Yeah, when I was a kid. But I remember that. Once I thought back on it, I remembered. I saw more of him than I did of Charlene in those first few weeks after my father left. He took me ice fishing and hunting, and when we had a storm come in, I stayed at his place for a couple of days. I'm telling you that you can trust him. That's all. All right. Now, look to starboard. He glanced right and watched them fly off the edge of the world, over a channel of blue water that seemed entirely too close for comfort. Before he could object, he saw an enormous chunk of that blue-white world crack off and tumble into the water. My God. This is an active tidewater glacier. And what you're watching is called calving, she said as other boulders of ice broke and fell. I guess because in the cycle, it's more a kind of birth than death. It's beautiful. He was all but plastered against the windscreen now. It's amazing. Jesus, some of them are the size of a house. He let out a laugh as another shot off into the air and barely registered the shimmy of the plane in a pocket of turbulence. People pay me good money to fly them over here to see this, then spend most of their time with their eyes glued to the lens of a video camera. Seems like a waste to me. If they want to see this on a movie, they should rent one. It wasn't just the show, Nate thought, the spectacle of it. It was that cycle, violent, inevitable, somehow mythic. The sights, jagged boulders of blue ice heaving themselves into the air, the sounds of it, creaks, the thunder and the cannon shots, the gushing up of the water on impact, and the rising up of the white into a shimmering island that streamed along on the churning fjord. I have to stay here. She guided the plane up, circling so he could watch from another angle. Here? In the air? No. He turned his head, grinned at her in a way she rarely saw, easy and relaxed and happy. Here. I can't be any place else either. It's good to know that. Here's something else that might be good to know. I'm in love with you. She laughed as the plane shuddered through rough air, and she punched it through and bulleted up the channel while ice fell around them. 27. Charlene had always loved what passed for spring in Alaska. She loved the way the days kept stretching out, longer and longer until there was nothing but light. In her office, she stood at the window, her work neglected on her desk, and stared out at the street. Busy. People walking, driving, going, coming. Townspeople and tourists, country dwellers in for supplies or company. 14 of her 20 rooms were booked, and she'd be at capacity for 3 days the following week. After that, the strong, almost endless light would draw people in like flies to honey. She'd work like a dog through most of April, into May and straight through until freeze-up. She liked to work, to have her place crowded with people, the noise and the mess they made, the money they spent. She'd built something here, hadn't she? She found what she wanted, or most of what she wanted. She looked out to the river. Boats were on it now, slipping their way through the melting islands of ice. She looked beyond the river, beyond to the mountains, white and blue, with green beginning to spread slowly, very slowly at their feet, white at their peaks, forever white in that frozen, foreign world. She'd never climbed. She never would. The mountains had never called to her, but other things had. Pat had. She'd felt that call blow through her, 1,000 trumpets when he'd roared into her life. Not yet 17, she remembered, and still a virgin. Stuck. Hadn't she been stuck? In those flat Iowa fields just waiting for someone to pluck her out. The original Midwestern farm girl, she thought now, desperate for any escape. And he'd come, churning up all that dull air on his motorcycle, looking so dangerous and exotic and different. Oh, he'd called to her, Charlene remembered, and she had answered that call, sneaking out of the house on those chilly spring nights to run to him, to roll naked with him on the soft green grass, free and careless as a puppy, and so desperately in love. That burning, blistering love maybe you could only feel at 17.
When he'd gone, she'd gone with him, walking out on home, family, friends, speeding away from the world she knew and into another, on the back of a Harley. To be 17, she thought, and that daring again. They'd lived. How they'd lived. Going wherever they wanted, doing whatever they liked, through farmland and desert, through city and tiny town. And all the roads they'd wandered had led here. Things had changed. When had they changed, she wondered. When she'd realized she was pregnant? They'd been so thrilled, so stupidly thrilled about the baby. But things had changed when they'd come here with that seed planted inside her, when she told them she'd wanted to stay.
Sure, Charlie, no problem. We can stick around a while.
A while had become a year, then 2, then a decade. And God, she'd been the one to change, to push and prod at that wonderful, reckless boy, to nag and hound him to be a man, to be what he'd run from, responsible, settled, ordinary. He'd stayed, more for Meg, she knew, more for the daughter who was the image of him, than for the woman who'd given him that child. He'd stayed, but he'd never settled. She'd resented him for that, resented Meg. How could she do otherwise? She wasn't built to do otherwise. She'd been the one to work, hadn't she? To make sure there was food on the table and a roof over their heads. And she knew, when he'd gone off to pick up jobs, to take a break, to climb his damn mountains, that he'd gone to whores. Men wanted her. She could make any man want her, and the only one she really wanted had gone to whores. What were his mountains but other whores? Cold, white whores that had seduced him away from her, until he'd stayed inside one and left her alone. But she'd survived, hadn't she? She'd done better than survive. She'd found what she'd wanted here. Most of what she'd wanted. She had money now. She had her place. She had men, young, hard bodies in the night. So why was she so unhappy? She didn't like to think long thoughts, to look inside herself and worry about what she'd find there. She liked to live. To move, to keep in motion. You didn't have to think when you were dancing. She turned, vaguely irritated by the knock on her door. "Come on in." She smoothed her face out, and the sultry smile was automatic when she saw John. "Well, hi there, good-looking. School's out? Is that late already?" She patted her hair as she looked at her desk. "And here I've been daydreaming, wasting the day away. I'm going to have to get out there and see what Big Mike's whipping up for tonight's special." "I need to talk to you, Charlene." "Sure, honey. I've always got time for you. I'll make us some tea and we'll get all cozy." "No, don't." "Baby, you look all frowny and serious." She crossed to him and skimmed a finger down each of his cheeks. "Of course you know I love when you're serious. It's so sexy." "Don't," he said again and took her hands. "Is something wrong?" Her fingers tightened on his like wires. "Oh, God, is something else dead around here? I don't think I could take it. I don't think I can stand it." "No, it's nothing like that." He let go of her hands, eased back a step. "I wanted to tell you. I'll be leaving at the end of the semester."
"You're taking a vacation? You're going to be taking a trip just when lunacy is at its best?"
"I'm not taking a vacation. I'm leaving."
"What are you talking about? Leave? For good? That's just nonsense, John."
The flirty smile faded, and something hot and sharp stabbed in her belly.
"Where would you go? What would you do?"
"There are a lot of places I haven't seen, a lot of things I haven't done. I'll see them, I'll do them." She felt her heart sink as she looked up into his dependable face. "The ones who matter," her mind whispered, "leave you."
"John, you live here. You work here."
"I'll live and I'll work somewhere else."
"You can't just... Why? Why are you doing this?"
"I should have done it years ago, but you get into the drift. Float your life away. Nate came to see me at school last week. Some of the things he said made me think, made me look back over too many years."
She wanted to find her anger, the sort that pushed her to shout, to break things, the sort that swept her clean, but there was only dull sorrow. What does Nate have to do with this?
He's the change, or the rock in the stream that caused the change. You drift, Charlene, like water in a stream, and maybe you don't notice as much as you should what's going by. He touched her hair, then dropped his hand again. Then a stone drops into the stream, and it disrupts. It changes things. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. But nothing's quite the same again.
I never know what you're talking about when you go on like that.
She pouted as she turned around and kicked at her desk, and the gesture made him smile.
Water, rocks, and streams? What does that have to do with you coming in here like this and telling me you're leaving? You're going away? Don't you even care how I feel?
Entirely too much for my own good. I loved you the first minute I saw you. You knew it.
But not anymore.
Yes. Then, now, all the years between. I loved you when you were with another man, and when he was gone, I thought, now she'll come to me. And you did, to my bed, at least. You let me have your body, but you married someone else. Even knowing I loved you, you married someone else.
I had to do what was right for me. I had to be practical.
She did throw something now, a little crystal swan, but its destruction gave her no satisfaction.
I had a right to look out for my future.
I would have been good to you, and for you. I'd have been good to Meg, but you chose differently. You chose this. He spread his hands to indicate the lodge. You earned it. You worked hard. You built it up. And while Carl was alive, you still came to me, and I let you. To me, and to others.
Carl wasn't after sex or Hartley. He wanted a partner, someone to take care of him in this place. I kept my end, she said passionately. We had an understanding.
You took care of him and this place. And when he died, you kept taking care. I lost track of the times I've asked you to marry me, Charlene. The number of times you've said no. The number of times I've watched you go off with someone else or slide into my bed when there wasn't someone else. I'm done with it.
I don't want to get married, so you're just going to take off?
You slept with that man the other night, part of the hunting group. The tall one with dark hair. She jerked up her chin.
So what?
What was his name? She opened her mouth, realized her mind was blank. She couldn't remember a face, much less a name, and barely remembered the groping in the dark.
What do I care? She snapped out. It was just sex.
You're not going to find what you're looking for. Not with nameless men nearly half your age. But if you have to keep looking, I can't stop you. That's been clear enough right from the start of this, but I can stop being your fallback position.
Go on, then.
She scooped up a pile of paperwork from her desk, threw it into the air.
I won't care.
I know. If you did, really did, I wouldn't go. He stepped out of the room and closed the door behind him. He was dazzled by the light. Nate couldn't get enough of it. No matter how long the day lasted, he wanted more. He could feel it penetrating flesh and bone, charging him. He hadn't woken from a nightmare in days. He woke to light, worked and walked through it in the day. He thought in it and ate in it. He soaked in it. And each night he watched the sun slide down behind the mountains. He knew it would rise again in a few hours. There were still nights when he'd slip out of Meg's bed, walk out with the dogs for company to watch the lights play havoc with the night sky. He could still feel the wound, throbbing under the scars on his body, but he thought the pain was a healing one now. He hoped to God it was, a kind of acceptance for what he'd lost and an opening to what he could have. For the first time since he'd left Baltimore, he called Jack's wife, Beth. I just wanted to know how you were. You and the kids.
We're okay. We're good. It's been a year since...
He knew. A year today.
Today's a little rough. We went out this morning, took him flowers. The firsts are the hardest. The first holiday, first birthday, first anniversary. But you get through it, and it's a little easier. I hoped, you'd call today. I'm so glad you did.
I wasn't sure you'd want to hear from me.
We miss you, Nate. Me and the kids. I worry about you.
I'm okay too. Better.
Tell me what it's like there. Is it awfully cold and quiet?
Actually, it's around 60 today. As for quiet, he looked over at his board. Yeah, it's pretty quiet. We've had some flooding. Not as bad as in the southeast, but enough to keep us busy. It's beautiful. He turned to his window now. Like nothing you can imagine. You have to see it, and even then it's hard to imagine.
You sound good. I'm glad you sound good.
I didn't think I'd make it here. Anywhere, he thought. I wanted to. I didn't care so much until I got here, until I was here, and then I wanted to. But I didn't think I would.
Now?
I think I will. Beth, I met someone.
Oh?
There was a laugh in her voice, and he closed his eyes to hear it.
Is she wonderful?
Spectacular. In so many ways. I think you'd like her. She's not like anybody else. She's a bush pilot.
A bush pilot? Isn't that one of those people who fly around in those tiny planes like maniacs?
Pretty much. She's beautiful. Well, she's not, but she is. She's funny and tough, and she's probably crazy, but it fits her. Her name's Meg, Megan Galloway, and I'm in love with her.
Oh, Nate, I'm so happy for you.
Don't cry, he said when he heard the tears.
No, it's good. Jack would find a million ways to tease you, but under it, he'd have been happy for you too.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to tell you. I just wanted to talk to you and tell you and say that maybe sometime you and the kids could come up. It's a great place for summer vacation, but June it won't be dark till midnight, and then they tell me it's more like twilight than dark. And it's warmer than you think, or so they tell me. I'd like you to see it, to meet Meg. I'd like to see you and the kids.
I can promise we'll come for the wedding.
His laugh was a little jerky. I haven't moved in that direction.
I know you, Nate. You will.
When he hung up, he was smiling, the last thing he had expected. He left the board uncovered, a kind of symbol that he was investigating in the open now, and walked out of his office. It still gave him a jolt to see Peter with his arm in a sling. The young deputy sat at his desk, punching keys one-handed. Desk duty. Paperwork detail. A cop, and that's what the kid was, could die of sheer boredom. Nate walked over. Want to get out of here? Peter looked up, one finger of his good hand poised over the keyboard. Sir? Want me to uncuff you from that desk for a while? Light came into his face. Yes, sir. Let's take a walk. He grabbed the two-way. Peach, Deputy Noddy and I are on foot patrol. Otto's already out, Peter told him. Hey, crime could be rampant out there for all we know. Peach, you've got the helm. Aye, aye, Captain, she said with a snicker. You boys be careful. Nate took a light jacket from a peg. Want yours? He asked Peter. Nah, only lower 48ers need a jacket on a day like this. That's so. Well then. Deliberately, Nate rehung the jacket. Outside, it was brisk enough and overcast. Rain was probably on its way, and undoubtedly, Nate thought, he'd regret the gesture of leaving the jacket before they were finished. But he headed down the sidewalk with the damp, frisky air blowing through his hair. How's the arm? Pretty good. I don't think I need the sling, but between Peach and my mother, it's not worth the grief. Women get all fussy when a guy gets himself shot. Tell me about it, and try to be, stoic about it, and they're all over you. I haven't talked to you too much about the incident. Initially, I told myself I'd made a mistake taking you out there. I spooked him when I got out of the car and cited the situation. A squirrel dropping an acorn would have spooked him, Peter. I said initially I told myself I'd made a mistake. The fact is, I didn't. You're a good cop. You proved it. You were down, you were hurt and dazed, but you backed me up. You had the situation controlled. You didn't need backup. I might have. That's the point. When you stand with someone in a volatile situation, you have to be able to trust him. No reservations. The way he and Jack had trusted each other, he thought. So you'd go through the door into the alley no matter what waited in the dark. I want you to know I trust you.
I thought you had me on the desk because you were trying to ease me out.
I've got you on the desk because you're injured. In the line, Peter. A commendation regarding your actions during the incident is going in your file. Peter stopped, stared.
A commendation?
You earned it. It'll be announced at the next town hall meeting.
I don't know what to say.
Stoic works. They crossed the street at the corner to swing up the other side. I have something else to tell you, and it's sensitive. Regarding the investigation our department is conducting, the homicides. He caught Peter's quick glance. Whatever the state police have determined, this department is treating them as homicides. I have several statements from individuals giving their whereabouts during the times in question. Most of those statements, however, can't be corroborated, at least not to my satisfaction. That includes Otto's.
Oh, but Chief, Otto's
one of us. I know, but I can't cross him off the list because he's one of us. There are a lot of people in this town, or outlying it, who had the opportunity for these 3 crimes. Motive's a different thing. The motive for the 2 subsequent arrow back to Galloway. What was the motive for his murder? Crime of passion, gain, cover-up, drug-induced? Maybe a combination of those motives. But whoever it was, he knew. Nate scanned the streets, the sidewalks. Sometimes it was what you knew that waited in the dark. He knew them well enough to do that winter climb with his killer and with Max. Just the 3 of them. He knew his killer well enough to indulge in, I guess we'd call it role-playing, while they were up there, enduring harsh conditions.
I don't understand what you mean.
He had a journal. It was on him, and left on him. Coben gave me a copy.
But if he had a journal, then...
He never used the names of his companions. They were on some sort of lark. The kind that tells me if he hadn't been killed up there then, he'd have died on some other climb unless he'd straightened up. They were smoking grass, popping speed, playing Star Wars. Galloway as Luke, Max as Han Solo, and ironically enough, Galloway's killer in the Darth Vader role. The mountain became that ice world they were on.
Hoth. I like the movies, Peter added with a little hunch to his shoulders. I collected the action figures and stuff when I was a kid.
Me too, but these weren't kids. They were grown men, and somewhere along the line the game got out of hand. Galloway wrote how Han, I believe that was Max, injured his ankle. They left him behind in a tent with some provisions and kept going.
That proves Max didn't kill him.
Depends on how you angle it. You could speculate that Max decided to follow, caught up with them in the ice cave and went crazy. You could further speculate that Max held the Vader role and killed both his playmates. Those aren't my personal theories, but they're theories, and the state accepts the second one.
That Mr. Hawbaker killed both guys? Then got himself down alone? I can't see it.
Why?
Well, I know I was just a little kid when all this happened, but Mr. Hawbaker never had a rep for being, bold and, self-sufficient. You had to be both to handle that descent.
I agree. Later in the journal, Galloway wrote that the Darth character was showing signs of, let's call it lunacy, anger, risk-taking, accusations, a lot of drugs involved in this, and from what I've read, a byproduct of the strain, altitude sickness, the high some climbers get from being up there. Nate watched Deb come out of the corner store to take Cecil for a walk. The dog was wearing a bright green sweater. Galloway was worried about this guy's state of mind, he continued as he casually exchanged waves with Deb. About getting them all down safe. His last journal entry was written in the ice cave. He never got out of it, so he was right to be worried. But he still wasn't worried enough to take definite steps to protect himself. There were no defensive wounds on the body. His own ice axe was still in his belt. He knew his killer, just like Max knew his, just like Yukon knew the man who slit his throat. We know him too, Peter. He sent another wave to Judge Royce, who strode toward KLUN with a cigar clamped between his teeth. We just haven't recognized him yet.
What do we do?
We keep going through what we know. We keep working with the layers until we know more. I'm not telling Otto about the journal. Not yet.
God.
This is tougher on you. These are people you've known all your life, or a good part of it. He nodded down the street where Harry stood on the sidewalk outside the corner store, catching a smoke and talking to Jim Mackey. Across from them, Ed walked briskly in the direction of the bank, but stopped to exchange a word with the postmistress who was out sweeping her stoop. Big Mike came out of the lodge and jogged, undoubtedly heading for the Italian place and his daily bout of shop talk with Johnny Trevani. His little girl let out belly laughs as she rode his shoulders. Just people. But one of them, out here on the street, inside one of these buildings or houses, in a cabin outside of town, is a killer. If he has to, he'll kill again. He went to Meg's every evening. She wasn't always there. Jobs were picking up as the weather warmed, but they had an unspoken agreement that he would come and stay. He'd tend the dogs, see to some of the chores. He was leaving his things there, such as they were, little by little, another unspoken agreement. He kept his room at the lodge, but it was more a storage area for his heavy winter gear at this point. He could have moved that to Meg's, too, but that would have been the line, the official "we're living together" line. He saw the smoke from her chimney before he made the turn, and his mood cranked up another notch. But there was no plane on the lake, and it was Jacob's truck in her drive. The dogs bolted out of the woods to greet him, with Rock carting one of the mastodon bones they liked to gnaw on. It looked fresh to Nate, and he left the dogs playing an energetic tug-of-war with it as he went inside. Nate could smell blood before he was halfway to the kitchen. Instinctively, his hand went to the butt of his weapon. "I brought meat," Jacob said without turning around. There were a couple of thick planks of something bloody on the counter. Nate relaxed his hand. "She doesn't have much time to hunt these days. Bears are awake. It's good meat for stew. Meatloaf." Bear meatloaf, Nate thought. What a world. "I'm sure she'll appreciate it." "We share what we have," Jacob continued calmly, wrapping bear meat in thick white paper. "She told you I was with her most days during the time her father was taken." "Was taken? That's an interesting way to put it." "His life was taken from him, wasn't it?" Jacob finished wrapping the meat and picked up a black marker, writing a date on the packages. It was such a housewifely gesture that Nate blinked. "She told you this, but you don't trust her memory or her heart." "I trust her." "She was a child." Jacob washed his hands in the sink. "She could be mistaken, or could, because she loves me, be protecting me." "She could?" Jacob dried his hands, picked up the packages of meat. When he turned, Nate saw he wore an amulet around his neck, a dark blue stone over a faded denim shirt. "I've talked to people." He walked into the little mudroom where Meg kept a small chest freezer. "People who aren't so willing to talk to police. People who knew Pat and Tutos." He began to stack packages in the freezer. "I'm told, by these people who will talk to me and not the police, that when Pat was in Anchorage, he had money, more money than was usual for him." He closed the freezer, walked back into the kitchen. "I'm having a whiskey now." "Where'd he get the money?" "He worked a few days at a cannery, took an advance on his pay, I'm told. He used it to play poker." Jacob poured 3 fingers of whiskey into a glass, held the second glass up with a question on his face. "No thanks." "I believe this may be true, because he liked to play, and though he often lost, he would consider it payment for the entertainment. It seems this time he didn't lose. He played 2 nights and most of 1 day. Those who talked to me say his winnings were big. Some say 10,000, others 20, others more. It may be like a fish and grows bigger with the telling, but there's agreement that he played and won and had money." "What did he do with the money?" "That no one knows, or admits to knowing. But some say they saw him last drinking with other men. This isn't unusual, so no one can say who the men were. And why should they remember such a thing over so long a time?" "There was a whore." Jacob's lips curved, just a little. "There always is." "Kate. I haven't been able to locate her." "Whoring Kate. She died maybe 5 years ago. Heart attack," Jacob added. "She was a very large woman and smoked 2, maybe 3 packs of Camels a day. Her death wasn't much of a surprise." Another dead end, Nate thought. "Did these people who talked to you but not to cops tell you anything else?" "Some say Tutos flew Pat and 2 others, or 3 others, no more than that, to climb. Some say to climb Denali, some say No Name, some say Deborah. The details aren't clear, but there's memory of the money, the pilot, the climb, and 2 or 3 companions. Jacob sipped his whiskey. Or, I could be lying and be the one who climbed with him. You could, Nate acknowledged. It'd be ballsy. A man who hunts down a bear's got balls. Jacob smiled. A man who hunts down a bear eats well. I believe you, but I could be lying. This time Jacob laughed and downed the rest of the whiskey. You could, but since we're in Meg's kitchen and she has love for us both, we can pretend to believe each other. She has more light now. She's always been bright, but now she's brighter, and she burns off the shadows in you. She can take care of herself, but... He took the glass to the sink, rinsed it, set it to drain, then turned back. Take care with her, Chief Burke, or I'll hunt you down. Noted, Nate replied when Jacob walked out. 28. Nate bided his time. It seemed he had plenty of it. Since he made it a point to stop by the Lodge restaurant and see Jessie daily, it wasn't a problem to find an opportunity for a private word with Charlene. He found Rose taking advantage of a mid-morning lull by sitting down in a booth refilling condiment dispensers. Don't get up, he said when she started to slide out. Where's my buddy today? We have cousins down from Nome, so Jessie has playmates for a few days. He's been showing off his uncle, the deputy, she said with a smile. But he wants to bring them all into town to meet his good friend Chief Nate. Really? He could feel his own grin spreading from ear to ear. Tell him to bring them on, and we'll give them a tour of the station. And he'd radio Meg, see if she could find him a bunch of toy badges when she picked up supplies. You wouldn't mind? I'd get a kick out of it. He leaned over to take a peek at Willow in her carrier. She's awfully pretty. He could say with truth now. Her cheeks had grown plump and sort of pinchable, and her eyes, so dark, seemed to latch onto his as if she knew things he didn't. He held out a finger. Willow wrapped hers around it, shook it. Is Charlene in her office? No, in the storeroom off the kitchen, doing inventory. Okay if I go back? You'll want a flak jacket, Rose warned as she dumped ketchup into a bright red squeeze bottle. She's been in a mood the last few days. I'll risk it. Nate? Peter told us about the commendation. He's so proud. We're so proud. Thank you. I didn't do anything. He did. Since her eyes filled, he made his escape quickly. Big Mike was at the counter making what looked like enough salad to feed an army of rabbits. He had the radio on to local, and Yo-Yo Ma's deep and passionate cello streamed out. Grab Florentine a la Mike's the lunch special, he called out. Buffalo salad for the heartier appetites. Yum. You going in there? Mike asked when Nate turned toward the storeroom. Better take a sword and shield. So I hear. But Nate opened the door, and since he could never tell with Charlene, left it open for safety's sake. It was a large, chilly room lined with metal shelves that were loaded with canned and dry goods. A couple of tall coolers held tubs of perishables, with a chest freezer squeezed in between them. Charlene stood among them, briskly scribbling on a clipboard. Well, I know where to head in case of thermonuclear war. She flipped him a glance, one that held none of her usual steamy come-on. I'm busy. I can see that. I just want to ask you a question. Nothing but questions out of you, she muttered, then raised her voice to a shout. I'd like to know why we're down to 2 cans of kidney beans? Big Mike's answer was to turn the radio up. Charlene, give me a couple of minutes and I'll be out of your way. Fine, fine, fine! She slapped the clipboard against a shelf hard enough that Nate heard the wood crack. I'm just trying to run a business here. Why should that matter to anybody? I'm sorry about whatever's bothering you, and I'll make this as quick as I can. Do you know anything about Galloway having substantial poker winnings between the time he left here and when he went up the mountain? She made a sound of derision. As if. Then her eyes narrowed. What do you mean substantial? A few thousand, anyway. I've got a source that says he might have played a couple of nights and hit. If there was a game, he probably played. He hardly ever won, though, and hardly ever won more than a couple hundred if he got lucky.
There was that one time in Portland. He won about $3,000, and we blew it on a fancy hotel room, a big steak dinner, a couple bottles of champagne from room service. He bought me an outfit for it, a dress and shoes and a pair of little sapphire earrings. Her eyes went shiny, but she shook her head and shoulders briskly and dried the tears up on her own. Stupid. I had to sell the earrings and Prince William to pay for motorcycle repairs and supplies. A lot of good they did me. If he had won money, what would he have done with it? Pissed it away? No. She laid her forehead on one of the shelf posts and looked so tired, so lost, so sad that he risked rubbing her shoulder. No, not right then. He knew I was on a tear about money. If he'd gotten his hands on some, he'd have played a little maybe, but he'd have held on to the bulk of it so he could bring it home and shut me up. Would he have banked it in Anchorage? We didn't have a bank in Anchorage. He'd have stuffed it in his pack and hauled it home for me to deal with. He didn't have any respect for money. A lot of people that come from it don't. She lifted her head. Are you saying there was money? I'm saying there's a possibility. He never sent any home that time. He never sent home a dime. If he had money and was going on a climb, he'd have left it stuffed in a drawer, if he kept his room, or if he didn't keep his room, he'd have taken it with him. The state police didn't say anything about money. He didn't have any on him. None, Nate thought as he went out again. No wallet, no ID, no cash, no pack. Just matches and the journal, zipped into the pocket of his parka. On the sidewalk, he took out his notebook. He wrote down, money, circled it. The saying was, follow the woman, he thought. But a cop knew if money was around murder, you always, always followed the money. He wondered how he could find out if anyone in lunacy had come into a tidy little windfall 16 years before. Of course, it was just as likely Galloway kept a room, left the money in it. And the maid, the owner or the next person to occupy it, just got really lucky. Or he'd taken it with him in his pack. His killer hadn't opened it up before he'd tossed it into a handy crevice. But why should the killer take the pack at all if not for a reason? For supplies. And woohoo, look what else we've got here. Or just to dump it in a panic, thinking if the body was found it wouldn't be identifiable. But if there had been money, Nate was willing to bet the killer had known it was there and had helped himself. Who?
People might wonder why they're paying taxes so the chief of police can daydream out on the street.
He shook himself back, looked down at Hop. Are you everywhere?
As often as possible. I'm on my way in to get a cup of coffee and brood, and plot.
She wore irritation on her face as visibly as her green check shirt. What's up?
John Malmont just tendered his resignation. Says he's leaving at the end of the school year.
Leaving teaching?
Leaving lunacy. We can't afford to lose him.
She took out her Zippo, but only stood snapping the top open and shut. Talk around town was she was wearing the patch.
He's a superior teacher, and added to that, he's helping Carrie with the lunatic. He runs all the school plays, heads up the yearbook committee, puts us on the tourist map with articles he gets published in magazines. I've got to sit down and figure out how to keep him.
Did he say why he decided to leave, all of a sudden?
Just that it was time for a change. 1 minute we're planning our summer book club, which he heads up, and the next he's packing. Son of a bitch.
She rolled her shoulders.
I'm having coffee and pie. Pie a la mode.
She snapped the lighter violently.
I'll get the brain cells working. He's not leaving without a fight.
Interesting, Nate thought. Interesting timing.
Burke had to go. That was the bottom line now, poking and prodding into matters that were none of his business. Well, there was more than one way to run a pain-in-the-ass Chichaco out of town. There were those who said Burke had risen above that status now that he'd survived his first winter. But he knew some remained Chichacos no matter what they survived. Galloway had been one. When push came to shove, he'd been gutless and mewling and sneaky. Most of all, sneaky. The man had been an asshole, pure and simple. Why should anyone give a damn that he was dead? Done what had to be done, he told himself as he carried the heavy plastic bags through the woods. Just like he was doing what had to be done now. Burke would be dealt with. Another gutless, mewling, sneaky asshole. Oh, my wife left me for another man. Woe is me. Oh, I got my partner killed. Boo-hoo. I had to run away where nobody knows me so I can wallow in my own muck of self-pity. But that wasn't good enough. Had to try to be a big shot, to take over what wasn't his. Could never be his. Yeah, he'd be dealt with, and life would get back to normal. He hung the plastic bags in the trees closest to the house while the dogs whined and batted their tails. "Not this time, boys," he said aloud and hung another one from the eave by the back door, just out of sight of the doorway. "Not this time, fellas." He gave the dogs a brisk rub, but they were more interested in sniffing at and licking his hands. He liked the dogs. He'd liked Yukon. But that old dog had been half blind, arthritic, and damn near deaf on top of it. Putting him down had been a mercy, really, and had made a point. He walked back toward the wood, stopping at the edge to look back. There were some patches of earth where the snow was busily melting in the sun, where the rains had washed it clear. A few sprigs of green were rising out of it. Spring, he thought. And once the ground thoroughly warmed, they'd bring Pat Galloway home for the last time. He planned to stand at the gravesite, with his head respectfully bowed. It was just softening to twilight when Nate got home. He waited by the side of the road while Meg walked over from the lake, over boggy green with thinning patches of snow, he noted. She carried a box of supplies and wore a bright red shirt that made him think of some flashy tropical bird. "Want to trade?" She looked at the pizza box he held, sniffed at it. "No, I got it, and your toy badges. But I like a man who brings dinner. How'd you know for sure I'd be back for dinner? Or were you planning on eating all that yourself?" "I heard your plane. Finished up what I was doing, walked up to the Italian place and got this. Figured you'd have to offload your cargo and the timing would be pretty close." "Close to perfect. I'm starved." She carted the supplies into the house and straight back to the kitchen. "And it so happens one of the things I picked up today is what's billed as an exceptional Cabernet." She pulled out the bottle. "You game?" "Sure. In a minute." He set the pizza aside, laid his hands on her shoulders, and kissed her. "Hi." "Hi, cutie." Grinning, she grabbed his hair, yanked him down for a harder, longer kiss. "Hello, boys." She crouched down for a quick rub and wrestle with her dogs. "Did you miss me, huh? Did you?" "We all did. Last night we consoled ourselves with a bear bone and mac and cheese. Jacob supplied the bone and the bear meat that's in your freezer." Good." She pulled out a plastic bag, shook it so the contents jingled, then tossed it to him. Inside he found silver pin-on stars. "Cool." "You said 7, but I got you a dozen. You can have some on hand if you want to deputize more kids." "Thanks. What do I owe you?" "You're running a tab. We'll catch up. Open that bottle, will you, Chief?" She slid her hand in the pizza box and tore off a slice. "Missed lunch," she said with her mouth full. "I had to sit down. A little engine trouble, and it cost me a couple of hours." "What kind of engine trouble?" "Nothing dire. All fixed now, but I could use pizza and wine, a hot shower, and a man who knows how to rub me in all the right places." "Looks like we can handle all of that." "You keep getting this half-smile going on. What's that about?" "Things. You want to sit down and eat, or are you just going to stand there and stuff it in your face?" "Stand here." She took another huge bite. "Stuff." "Okay. Should this breathe or something?" "Not when I'm washing down pizza with it. Gimme." He poured her a glass and another for himself. Then he pulled out a slice and leaned back on the counter to eat it. "You know the day Peter was shot?" "Hard to forget. He used to follow me and Rose around like a puppy. He's doing okay, right?" "He's fine. But that day, when I saw the blood on the snow, when I got to him and had his blood on my hands, part of my mind wiped out. No, more rolled back. To Jack. I was back in that alley again. I could see it, hear it, smell it. And I wanted to sink away somehow. Just go away." "That's not the way I heard it." That's what was going on inside. He'd get this out first, Nate thought. Make sure she saw him as he'd been, as he was, and as he'd hoped to be. It seemed like a long time crouched there in the snow with him bleeding on me, but it wasn't. And I didn't sink away.
No, you didn't. You drew his fire away from Peter.
That's not the point.
Cutie.
She moved forward, gave him a little kiss, moved back again to lean on the counter.
You're such a cop.
I controlled the situation, did the job, and got everybody out of it alive. I could have killed him. Spinnaker. He saw her take that in, just a slight angling of her head. I could have done it, and for an instant I considered it. Nobody would have questioned it. He'd shot my deputy, shot at me. He was armed and dangerous. It wasn't like in the alley with Jack. Then my partner was down. My partner was dying, he corrected. And I was down, and that son of a bitch kept coming. He looked down at his wine while she listened, while she waited. He set it on the counter. There was no choice, and here I had one. And I considered blowing him to hell. You should know that. You should know it was in me to do that.
Do you expect me to care if you had? He tried to kill my friend, tried to kill you. I wouldn't have cared, Nate. I guess you should know that's in me.
It would have been
wrong, she finished. For you, for the man you are, for the kind of cop you are. So I'm glad you didn't. Your right and wrong are more defined than mine. That's just the way it is.
It was a year ago that Jack died. Sympathy swam into her eyes.
Oh, boy. You just keep getting punched in the gut, don't you?
No. No, I called Beth on the day. Jack's wife. I called her, and it was good. She was good. In talking to her, I realized I wasn't going to sink again. I don't know when I got out of the pit exactly, and sometimes the ground's still a little soft and unstable under my feet. But I'm not going back down.
You never were.
She poured more wine in her glass.
I know people who have, or who probably will. The kind who fly into the side of a mountain on a clear day, or go off into the bush to die. I know them. They're part of the outer world I run in, away from here. Burned out pilots or some outsider who stumbles up here because he can't take the world anymore. Women beat down from being abused or neglected for so long they'll just lie down and let the next man kick them to death on the street. You were sad, Nate, and a little lost, but you were never one of them. You've got too much core to be one of them.
He said nothing for a moment. Then he reached out, touched the ends of her hair. You burned away my shadows.
Huh?
The half-smile came back to his lips. Marry me, Meg. For a moment she stared at him, those crystal blue eyes full power on his. Then she tossed the half-eaten slice of pizza into the box.
I knew it!
Throwing up her hand, she spun around on her heels and clomped around the kitchen with enough violence to have the dogs leaping up to sniff at her.
I just knew it! Give a guy some good sex, a couple of hot meals, soften up enough to say you love him, and boom! Next breath it's marriage talk. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you?
She whirled around to jab a finger at him.
Hearth and home tattooed on your butt.
Looks like you nailed me.
Don't you smirk at me.
A minute ago it was a half-smile, and you thought it was kind of cute.
I changed my mind. What do you want to get married for?
I love you. You love me.
So?
Her arms were still flapping around, and now the dogs figured it was a game and made playful little lunges at her.
Why do you want to screw that up?
Just crazy, I guess. What are you, chicken? She sucked air in her nose, and her eyes went to cold fire.
Don't you play that crap on me.
You got marriage fear? He leaned back on the counter, picked up his glass again, and sipped his wine. The brave little bush pilot gets shaky in the knees when the M word comes up.
Interesting. My knees are not shaking, you jerk.
Marry me, Meg. His half-smile went full-blown. See? You went pale.
I did not.
I love you,
you bastard.
I want to spend my life with you.
God damn it.
I want to have babies with you.
Oh.
She gripped her hair and pulled, as an indescribable sound ground out of her throat.
Cut it out!
See? He contemplated another slice of pizza. Chicken. Her right hand closed into a fist.
Don't think I can't take you down, Burke.
You already did. First time I saw you.
Oh, man. The fist dropped to her side. You think you're cute? You think you're smart? But what you are is stupid and simple. You've already been through this marriage thing, got the shit kicked out of you, and here you are asking for more.
She wasn't you. I wasn't me.
What the holy hell does that mean?
First part's easy. There's nobody else like you.
I'm not who I was when I was with her. Different people make, well, different people. I'm a better man with you, Meg. You make me want to be a better man. Oh, God, don't say things like that. She could feel her eyes burn. The tears rising up from her heart were hot and strong. You're the man you always were. Maybe you were shaky for a while, but anybody is when they've been beaten up and tossed aside. I'm not better, Nate. I'm selfish and contrary and... I was gonna say inconsiderate, but I don't see why it's inconsiderate to live your life the way you want. I mean when I want to be. I don't care about rules unless they're mine, and I'm still here in this place because I'm half crazy.
I know. Don't change.
I knew there was gonna be trouble with you New Year's Eve, when I went with that stupid impulse and brought you out to see the Northern Lights.
You wore a red dress.
You think I'm such a girl I'll go all squishy because you remember what color dress I wore?
You love me.
Yeah?
She blew out a long breath, wiped her hands over her wet cheeks.
Yeah, I do. What a damn mess.
Marry me, Meg.
You're just gonna keep saying that, aren't you?
Until I get an answer.
What if the answer's no?
Then I'll wait. Work on you a little at a time and ask you again. Giving up doesn't work for me, so I'm done with it.
You didn't give up. You were just hibernating.
He smiled again. Look at you, standing there. I could look at you forever.
Jesus, Nate!
Her heart ached, literally ached, so she had to rub the heel of her hand over it. And that ache, she realized, sweet at the center, smothered out the panic.
You kill me.
Marry me, Meg.
Oh, well.
She sighed. Then she laughed because the sweetness spread through everything else.
What the hell? I'll give it a shot.
She took a running leap that would have knocked him flat if he hadn't had his back to the counter. Her legs wrapped around his waist, her mouth crushed down on his.
This goes south. It's on your head.
Goes without saying.
I'll be a terrible wife.
She rained kisses over his face, his throat.
I'll irritate you and make you crazy half the time. I'll fight dirty, and I'll stay pissed off when you win, which will be rarely.
She leaned back, framed his face with her hands.
But I won't lie to you. I won't cheat, and I'll never let you down when it matters.
It'll work for us. He rested his cheek on hers and just breathed her in. We'll make it work. I don't have a ring.
You'll need to rectify that ASAP, and spare no expense.
Okay. Laughing, she leaned back, way back so he had to shift his stance to keep a hold on her.
This is just crazy enough to be right.
She reared back up, locked her arms around his neck.
I think it's time you went upstairs and had insane engagement sex.
I was counting on that. He hitched her up a bit and carried her out of the room. When she nipped her teeth into his throat, he took a shaky breath. Does it have to be upstairs? How about on the stairs? Or just on the floor right here? Then later we could... Damn it! The dogs ran barking to the door, and an instant later he saw the glare of headlights cross the window.
Lock all the doors,
Meg murmured dreamily, still working on his throat.
Turn out all the lights. We'll hide. We'll get naked and hide.
Too late. But we're going to remember where we were, and after we get rid of whoever that is, even if we have to kill them, we'll pick it up again.
Deal.
She hopped down. Hold! She ordered the dogs who sat, quivering at the door. She opened it, recognized the man who got out of the car. Friend, she told the dogs, then lifted a hand in greeting.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Meg. He bent to pet the dogs.
Hi, guys, hi. How's it going? I saw Peter and he said Chief Burke was out here. I wanted to see him a minute if that's okay." "Sure, come on in. Outside, boys, time for a run." "Hi, Stephen, how you doing?" "Chief?" He shook hands with Nate. "A lot better than the last time you saw me. I wanted to thank you again, in person and when I was a little more with it, for what you did for me, for us. You too, Meg." "Heard you kept all your digits. 10 fingers, 10 toes. Well, 9.5 toes. Really lucky. All of us were. I'm sorry to bother you at home. I mean, when you're off duty." "It's no problem." "Go ahead and sit down," Meg invited. "You want some wine? A beer?" "He's underage," Nate said even as Stephen started to accept. "And he's driving."
"Cops,"
Meg grumbled.
Always pooping on the party.
"Maybe a Coke or something if you got it handy." "Sure." Stephen sat, drummed his fingers on his knees. "I'm home for a couple of days, spring break. I wanted to come sooner, but I've got a lot of stuff to catch up on. Missed a lot of classes when I was out, you know."
"You making them up?"
"Yeah, putting in a lot of long nights, but I'm making up time. I wanted to come when I heard about Yukon." His voice trembled and the fingers on his knees dug in. "I'm sorry. I remember when we got him. I was just a kid and he was this goofy ball of fluff. It's hard. Hardest on my mom. He was like her baby or something. I don't know what I'd do if anyone hurt my dogs," Meg said as she came back into the room. She handed Nate one of the glasses of wine she had in each hand, then took the can of Coke under her arm and gave it to Steve. I know you're doing all you can. Somebody told me you had some crazy guy around. Jesus, he shot Peter." He shook his head as he opened the can. "And some think maybe this guy did that to Yukon, but—" "You don't think so?" Nate prompted. "Yukon was friendly, but he wouldn't have gone with a stranger. I just don't think he'd have gone with somebody he didn't know, not without a fight. He was old and mostly blind, but he wouldn't have left the yard with somebody he didn't know." He drank deep. "Anyway, that's not why I came by. I just wanted to get that out. It's about this." He hitched up his hips as he dug in the front pocket of his jeans. He pulled out a small silver earring in the shape of a Maltese cross. "It was in the cave," he said. Nate took it. "You found this in the cave? With Galloway?" "Scott did, actually. I forgot about it. I guess we all did. He saw this about a foot from—" He glanced at Meg. "From the body. Sorry." "It's okay." "He chipped it out. I don't know why. Something to do. He put it in his pack. By the time we all got off the mountain, the shape we were in, the hospital and shit, he just forgot about it. He found it in his stuff and remembered and gave it to me because I was coming home. We thought it was probably your father's, Meg, so you should have it. Then I thought how it should probably go through the cops first, so I figured I should bring it to Chief Burke."
"Did you show this to Sergeant Coben?" Nate asked.
"No. Scott passed it to me right before I left to come home, and I wanted to get home. I thought it was all right to do it through you."
"That's fine. Thanks for bringing it by."
"I don't know if it was his," Meg said when she was alone with Nate. "It could have been. He wore an earring. He had a few. I can't remember exactly. A couple of studs, a gold hoop. But it might have been his. It could have been something he bought in Anchorage while he was gone. It might have been—"
"His killers," Nate finished, studying the earring in his palm.
"Are you going to give it to Coben?"
"I'm going to think about it a while."
"Put it away, will you? Can we put it away for tonight? I don't want to be sad."
Nate slipped it into the breast pocket of his shirt, buttoned it closed. "Okay?"
"Okay."
She laid her head on his shoulder, laid a hand over the pocket.
"You can show it to Charlene tomorrow. Maybe she'd know. But for now—"
She set her hands on his shoulders, boosted herself up again.
"Where were we?
I think we were over there.
And now we're here. And look, there's a nice comfy couch behind you. How quick can you get me naked on it?"
"Let's find out." He dropped backward, pulling her around at the last minute, so she fell, laughing, under him. Her legs were still hooked around him as she tugged his shirt out of his pants, scraped her nails up his back. "I expect you to ring the big bell tonight, since I'm an engagement sex virgin." "I'm gonna work my way up to the big bell." He unbuttoned her shirt, taking his lips on a trail down the opening to the button of her jeans. "Ring all the little ones on the way up." I admire a man with ambition." She felt his tongue slide over her, his teeth scrape over exposed flesh as he peeled the jeans down her legs. She was going to marry this man. Imagine that. Ignatius Burke, with his big, sad eyes and strong hands. A man just packed with patience and needs and courage and honor. She brushed a hand through his hair. She'd done nothing in her life to deserve him, and somehow that made it all that much more wonderful. Then his teeth nibbled along her inner thigh. Her system shuddered, and she stopped thinking altogether. He worked his way up her and down her, over her, around her, washed through with the knowledge that she belonged to him now, to cherish and protect, to hold up and to lean on. Love for her was like a sun inside him, shining strong and white. He found her lips again, sank into them, into all that heat and power. In some part of his brain, he heard the dogs barking, a frenzied cacophony that cut through the sexual buzz. Even as he lifted his head to tune into the sound, Meg was shoving him away. "Something's at my dogs." She sprinted out of the room, even as he rolled off the couch. "Meg, wait a minute. Wait a damn minute." He heard something that wasn't a dog sound outside the house, and he ran after her. 29. She had a rifle and was yanking open the back door by the time he caught her. He made a leap, slapped the door closed. "What the hell are you doing?" "Protecting my dogs. They're going to get mauled out there. Back off, Burke. I know what I'm doing." Too rushed for niceties. She wrapped the butt of the rifle into his belly and was both furious and astonished when, instead of buckling, he stood his ground and shoved her back. "Give me the gun." "You've got your own. They're my dogs." A pulsing, clacking roar cut through the frenzied barks. "It'll kill my dogs!" "No, it won't." He didn't know what it was, but from the sound of it, it was bigger than any dog. He slapped on the outside lights, then picked up the gun he'd laid on her counter, pulled it out of the holster. "Stay here." Later he would wonder why he'd thought she'd listen to him, listen to reason, be safe. But when he opened the door, his gun lifted, held in combat stance, she bolted out, ducking under his arm, whirling her body and the barrel of the rifle toward the sounds of vicious war. There was an instant of wonder struck into him, tangled with fear and a terrible respect. The bear was massive, a great hulk of black against a patchy snow. Its teeth gleamed sharp and deadly in the light as its jaws opened, and it bellowed viciously at the dogs. They went at it, short, testing lunges, snapping, snarling. He saw blood splattered over the ground, a pool of it soaking into the thawing ground. The raw smell of it, and the pungent odor of wild animal, stung the air. "Rock! Bull! Here! Come here now!" Too far gone was Nate's only thought as Meg called out. Too far gone to listen even to her. They'd already made their choice between fight or flight, and the bloodlust was on them. The bear dropped onto all four, its back hunched, and the sound it made was nothing like the growls Hollywood assigned to its breed. It was more savage, more chilling, more real. It swiped out, razor claws sweeping, and sent one of the dogs tumbling off into the snow on a high-pitched yelp. Then it rose up on its hind legs, taller than a man, wide as the moon, blood on its fangs and its eyes mad with battle. He fired as it charged, fired again as it got down on all fours to rush them. He heard the explosion of Meg's rifle, once, twice, booming through his own fire. It screamed. It seemed like a scream to him, as blood flew, as it matted its fur. It fell less than 3 feet from where they stood, and shook the ground under Nate's feet. Meg shoved the rifle at Nate, and jumped down to run to the dog who limped toward her. "You're all right. You're okay. Let me see. Just grazed you, didn't he? You stupid, stupid dog! Didn't I tell you to come?" Nate stayed where he was a moment, making certain the bear was down for good, while Rock sniffed around the body, nosed into the blood. Then he walked down to where Meg knelt in nothing but a pair of panties and an open shirt. Get inside, Meg.
It's not too bad, she was crooning to Bull. I can fix it. Baited the house, do you see? Bloody meat. Her eyes were hard stones as she gestured to the chunks of half-eaten meat near the back of the house. Hung meat. Fresh meat at the house. Probably at the edge of the woods. Lure the bear in. Bastard. That's what the bastard did. Get inside, Meg. You're cold. He pulled her to her feet, felt her trembling. Take these. I'll get the dog. She took the guns, whistled for Rock. Inside, she laid the guns on the counter and dashed for a blanket and first aid supplies. Lay him on that, she called out when Nate carried the dog in. Get down with him. Keep him quiet. He's not going to like this. He did as she asked, held the dog's head and said nothing while she cleaned the cuts. Not deep. Not too deep. Probably scar. War wounds, that's okay. Rock, sit! She snapped out when he tried to wiggle under her arm to sniff at his companion. I'm going to give him a couple shots here. She took out a hypo, tapped it with a steady hand, squirted out a small stream. Hold him still. We can take him into Ken. It's not that bad. He wouldn't do any more than I can do here. Going to give him this. Make him groggy so I can stitch up the deeper cuts. We'll give him an antibiotic after, wrap him up, let him sleep it off. She pinched a hunk of fur, then slid the needle in. Bull whimpered and rolled his eyes pitifully up at Nate. Just relax, big guy. You're going to feel better in a minute. He stroked the dog while Meg started to suture. You keep all that stuff around the house? Out here you never know. Maybe you slice your leg or whatever cutting wood, power's out, roads are blocked. What are you going to do? Her brows were knitted as she worked, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. Can't depend on getting to a doctor for every damn thing. There now, baby doll. Nearly done. We're going to keep you nice and warm. I've got this salve here. It'll help it heal and keep him from gnawing at it 'cause it tastes foul. Gonna bandage him up. Take him in tomorrow, have him looked at. But it's not too bad. When the dog was sleeping under a blanket with Rock curled beside him, she picked up the wine bottle and drank from it. Now her hands shook violently. Jesus Christ. Nate took the bottle from her, set it carefully aside. Then he gripped her elbows and jerked her an inch off the floor. Don't you ever do anything like that again! Hey! Look at me! Listen to me! She hardly had a choice as his voice was booming, and his face, rigid with fury, engulfed her vision. Don't you ever take a risk like that again! I had to! No, you didn't! I was here. You didn't have to go running out of the house half naked to take on a grizzly. It wasn't a grizzly, she shouted back at him. It was a black bear! He dropped her back on her feet. Damn it, Meg! I can take care of myself and what's mine. He spun back around, his face so full of rage, she backed up a step. This wasn't the patient lover. It wasn't the cold-eyed cop. This was a furious man with enough heat blasting out to boil her alive. You're mine now, so get used to it. I'm not going to stand around and act helpless because... Helpless my ass! Who wants you to act helpless? There's a big fucking difference between acting helpless and running out of the house in your underwear when you don't know the situation. There's a big damn difference, Meg, when you try to shove me aside by ramming the butt of a rifle in my gut. I didn't. Did I? Oddly enough, it was his full-blown temper that cut hers down to manageable, that allowed her to think again. I'm sorry. Sorry. That was wrong. She pressed her hands to her face, took several deep breaths until the fear, the anger, the shaky aftermath of both eased. Some of the other stuff was probably wrong, but I just reacted. She held out a hand, palm out for peace, then picked up her wine again. She sipped slowly to soothe her raw throat. My dogs are my partners. You understand? You don't hesitate when your partner's in trouble. And I did know the situation. There wasn't time to explain it, and I haven't taken time to tell you it felt all kinds of good and different things to know you were beside me out there. Even if I didn't act like it, I knew you were there, and it mattered. Her voice thickened, so she pressed the fingers of her free hand to her eyes until she had it under control. You want to be mad? I won't hold it against you. But maybe you could wait to finish yelling at me until I get some clothes on. I'm cold. I guess I'm finished. He stepped toward her,
pulled her into his arms and held on like fury. "Look at that. I'm shaking." She burrowed into him. "I wouldn't be if you weren't here to hang on to." "Let's get you dressed." He kept an arm around her until they were in the living room, and he walked over to put another log on the fire. "I've got a need to take care of you," he said quietly. "I'm not going to drown you in it." "I know. I've got a need to take care of myself, but I'll try not to shove you away with it." "Okay. Now, explain about the baiting." "Bears like to eat. That's why you bury or seal your scraps when you're camping, while you carry any food supplies in sealed containers and hang them up, away from camp. That's why you build a cache for supplies and have it on stilts, and the ladder you use to get up to them comes down every time you do." She pulled on her pants, scooped a hand through her hair. "Bears get a scent of something to eat. They mosey on over to snack, and they can climb a ladder. You'd be surprised what can climb a ladder. They'll even wander into town, a populated area, to get into garbage cans, bird feeders, and so on. You might have one try to get in the house, just to see if there's something more interesting to eat inside. Mostly you can scare them off. Sometimes you can't." She buttoned up her shirt, edged closer to the fire. "There's meat on the ground out there, and I bet we'll find some shreds of the plastic it was in. Somebody put it there, hoping to bring a bear in toward the house, and you can be pretty confident that kind of baiting will work this time of year. Bears are just waking up. They're hungry." "Someone laid the bait, hoping you'd step into the trap." "No, not me. You." And that had her stomach churning. "Think about it. Had to be baited sometime today before I got back. If someone tried that while we were here, we'd have heard the dogs carrying on. Say you were out here alone tonight, like you were last night. What would you have done if you'd heard the dogs start up like we did?" "I'd have gone out to see why, but I'd have gone out armed." "With your handgun," she said with a nod. "Maybe you can take down a bear with a handgun, or scare it off with one, if you're lucky enough, and get off enough shots before it takes it out of your hand and eats it. Mostly you're just going to make it mad. And a bear who's busy chowing down or fighting a couple of angry huskies? You'd have gotten through my dogs, Nate. Odds are they'd have done some damage before it ripped them to pieces. And if you'd been out there alone with that 9mm, you might have been ripped to pieces too. Odds are. Wounded bear, enraged bear, he'd come right through the door after you two. That's what someone was counting on." "If so, I must be making someone very nervous." "That's what cops do, don't they?" She rubbed a hand over his knee when he sat beside her. "Whoever it was wanted you dead, or in a world of hurt, and it didn't mind sacrificing my dogs to do it." "Or you, if things had gone differently." "Or me. Well, he's got me pissed off now." She patted his knee before she rose to pace. "Killing my father, that hurt me. But he'd been gone a long time and I could deal. Tracking him down, tossing him in a cell, that'd be enough. But nobody comes after my dogs." She turned and saw that half smile was back. "Or after the guy I'm going to marry, especially before he's bought me a really expensive ring. You still mad at me?" "Not so much. I will always have that image of you standing out there in your red panties, with that red shirt open and blowing back in the wind while you held the rifle. But after a while, it's going to be erotic instead of terrifying." "I really do love you. It's the damnedest thing." "Okay." She scrubbed her hands hard over her face. "We can't leave that carcass out there. It'll bring all kinds of other interested visitors, and the dogs will be rolling over it in the morning. I'm going to call Jacob, have him help me deal with it, and he can see if he can find any signs from whoever left the bait." She saw his face, stepped forward. "I can see your brain working. Jacob was here today and with bear meat. He wouldn't have done this, Nate. I can give you several specific reasons why, over and above the fact that he's a good man who loves me. First, he'd never put my dogs in jeopardy. He loves them and respects them too much. Second, he knew I was coming home tonight. I touched base with him after I did the engine work. Third, if he wanted you dead, he'd just jam a knife in your heart and bury you somewhere you'd never be found. Simple, clean, straightforward. This was sneaky and cowardly and not a little desperate." I agree with you. Call him. In his office the next morning, Nate studied his most recently collected evidence, some scraps of white plastic, which looked like the same material used at the corner store to bag produce, some scraps of meat he'd sealed in an evidence bag, and a silver earring. Had he seen it before? That earring. There was something on the fringes of his memory, a finger tap on the brain, trying to wake it up. A single silver earring. Men wore them more now than they once had. Fashions changed and evolved, and even a suit wouldn't be smirked at for sporting an earring these days. But 16 years ago? Not as mainstream, not as common for a man. More a hippie sort of thing, or a musician, an artist, a biker, a rebel. And this wasn't a discreet little stud, or a tiny sporty hoop, not with that cross dangling. It made more of a statement. It wasn't Galloway's. He'd checked the photographs, and Galloway had died with a hoop in his ear. Best he could tell using a magnifying glass, Galloway's other ear had been unpierced. He'd check with the ME to be sure. But he knew what he was looking at belonged to the murderer. The little back piece, what the hell did they call that, was missing. He could see in his mind's eye that faceless figure rearing back with the axe, and the little earring falling off, unnoticed. Bringing the axe down, bringing it home. Had he stood there, watching Galloway's shocked face as his friend had slid bonelessly down that icy wall? Had he stood there, staring, studying, shocked himself or pleased, thrilled or appalled? Hardly mattered, Nate thought. The job was done. Take the pack, check it. No point in leaving supplies or the money if the money was in there. Have to be practical. Have to survive. How long before he'd noticed the loss of the earring? Too late to go back and check. Too insignificant a detail to worry about. But it was always the details that built the case. And the cage.
Nate?
Still holding the earring, he reached for his intercom. Yeah.
Jacob's here to see you.
Peach told him. Send him back. He didn't get up, but instead leaned back in his chair as Jacob came in and closed the door behind him. Expected you to come by this morning. There are things I want to say I didn't want to say last night in front of Meg. Jacob wore a buckskin shirt over faded jeans, and the thin string of beads around his neck held a polished brown stone. His silvered hair was drawn back in a long tail. His exposed lobes sported no jewelry. Have a seat, Nate invited, and say them. I'll stand and say them. You'll use me to finish this, or I'll do what I have to do on my own, but this will end. He stepped forward, and for the first time in their acquaintance, Nate saw undisguised rage on Jacob's face. She is my child. She's been mine more years than she was Pat's. This is my daughter. Whatever you think about me, whatever you wonder, you will know that. I'll be a part of finding who put her in danger last night, one way or the other. Nate rocked forward in his chair, rocked back again. You want a badge? He saw Jacob's hands ball into fists, then open again, slowly, just as slowly as the rage went under some enigmatic mask. No, I don't think I'd like a badge. Too heavy for me. Okay, we'll keep my use of you unofficial. That suit you better? It does. These people you were asking questions of, the ones who told you about the money, is it possible a wind of that blew back here to lunacy? More than possible. People talk, especially white people. And if that wind blew, it wouldn't be a stretch to conclude, due to your connection to Galloway and to Meg, that you'd pass the information to me. Jacob shrugged. Why not just shut you down before you got it to me? And now Jacob smiled. I've lived a very long time, and am very hard to kill. You haven't, and aren't. This business last night was sloppy and stupid. Why not just shoot you in the head when you're alone by the lake? Weigh you down with stones and sink you. I would. I appreciate that. He doesn't use the direct approach. No, not even with Galloway, Nate said as Jacob looked at the board. That was a moment of madness, of greed, of opportunity. Maybe all three. It wasn't planned. No. Considering now, Jacob nodded. There are easier ways to kill a man than climbing a mountain. One stroke of the axe, Nate continued. One. Afterward, he's too delicate to yank it out again, to dispose of the body. That would be too direct, too involved. Same with Max. Stage a suicide. Max was as responsible as he is. He can look at it that way. The dog? Just a dog, a cover, a distraction, and an indirect slap at Stephen Wise. He won't come at me face to face. He pushed the earring across the desk. Recognize that? Jacob frowned over it. A bauble, a symbol, not a native one. We have our own. I think the killer lost it 16 years ago, long forgotten. But he'll remember it if he sees it again. I've seen it before, somewhere. Nate picked it up, let the cross twirl. Somewhere. He carried it with him. It wasn't strictly procedure, but Nate kept the earring in his pocket as he went about town business. He said nothing to anyone about the incident at Meg's, and he asked her and Jacob to do the same. A little game with a killer, he thought. In that burgeoning spring, while the days lengthened and the green overtook the white, he went about his duties, talked with the people of his town, listened to their troubles and complaints, and checked the earlobes of all the men he came in contact with.
They can close up,
Meg told him one night. What?
The holes in your ear? Or wherever you decide to skewer yourself. She danced her fingers lightly over his penis.
Please. He couldn't quite submerge the shudder and made her laugh, wickedly.
I've heard it can really add something to the thrust.
Don't even think. What do you mean, close up?
They can heal up. If you haven't had it for long, and you quit wearing anything in it, they...
She made a slurping sound.
Close up again.
Son of a bitch.
Are you sure? I used to have 4 in this one. She tugged her left ear. Got an urge and jabbed a 3rd and 4th hole in.
Yourself? You did it yourself?
Sure. What am I, a weenie?
She rolled over on him, and since she was naked, his mind wandered away from the conversation before he dragged it back again.
I wore 4 for a few weeks, but it started to be too much trouble, so I ditched the extras, and they closed up.
She reached over to turn on the light, then angled her head.
See?
You could have told me that before I looked at earlobes all over town and made notes on who had piercings. She rubbed his earlobe.
You might look cute with one.
No.
I could do it for you.
Absolutely no. Not in the ear or anywhere else.
Spoil sport.
Yeah, that's me. I've got to rethink this now, since my short list is no longer viable. She rose up to straddle him, to take him in.
Think later.
He dropped into the lodge and spotted Hop and Ed having a meeting over buffalo salad. He stopped at their booth. Can I interrupt a minute?
Sure, slide in.
Hop made room for him.
We're going over what you'd call fiduciary matters. Gives me a headache, and perks Ed here right up. We're trying to figure out how to stretch the budget to building a library. Section off part of the proposed post office for it, at least for now. What do you think?
Sounds like a nice idea to me. We're agreed on that. Ed dabbed his lip with a napkin. But we need a little more elastic in the budget to make it stretch. He winked at Hop. I know that's not what you want to hear.
We get people involved, get donations for materials, for labor. We get books donated or go begging for them. People pull together if you get them excited about a project.
You can count me in, Nate told them, if and when. Meanwhile, I got a fiduciary type of question myself. I was going to drop by to see you, Ed. Bank question. Goes back a few years, so it may tax your memory. No hole in his ear, Nate thought as Ed nodded. When it comes to banking, my memory's long. Hit me. It deals with Galloway. That? He lowered his voice, glancing around the restaurant. Maybe we shouldn't discuss this here. Charlene. It won't take long. I've got a source saying Galloway got himself a good pile of cash playing poker when he was in Anchorage.
Pat loved to play poker,
Hop commented. That he did. I played with him more than once. Small stakes, though. Ed added. I can't imagine him winning much. Source says otherwise. So I was wondering, did he send any money back into his account here in town before he went on that climb? Not that I recall. Not even a paycheck. We were a smaller operation in those days, as I told you before. His eyes narrowed in thought. Though by the time Pat left, we built an actual vault and had 2 part-time tellers. Still, I was involved in nearly every transaction. Rubbing his chin, he sat back. Pat didn't bother with the finances. He wasn't one to come into the bank to deposit or withdraw for that matter. How about when he left town for work? Did he usually send money back? Now he did, sometimes. I do remember Charlene coming down once, even twice, every week, more than 2 months, checking to see if he had anything direct deposited after he left that time. If there was any big money, which I tend to doubt, he might have banked it there or just as likely stuffed it in a shoebox.
I'll go with Ed on the second,
Hop said.
Pat never did think twice about money.
People who come from it usually don't. Ed gave a shrug. Then there's us, he said with a wink at Hop, who have to do some finagling if we want to have a town library. I'll let you get back to that. Nate scooted out. Thanks for the time. He ought to spend his time on town business. Ed shook his head as he lifted his coffee.
I guess he figures this is.
We need Mayday, Hop, if we're going to get that library.
Agreed. So far he's keeping it low-key. He's just gonna have to see it through until he's satisfied it was Max who killed Pat. Tenacious Ignatius, she said. That's how I'm thinking of him these days. Boy just won't let go. It's a good quality to have in your chief of police.
Jacob had been right. Some people wouldn't talk to cops. Even with Jacob there, Nate hadn't been able to squeeze any more juice out of the trip he took to Anchorage. Not that it was a wasted trip. He hadn't gone to see Coben. He should have, he admitted as Jacob skimmed over the lake. He should have taken the earring in, but he hadn't. He wanted a little more time there, a little more time to pull it together. He let his shoulders relax when the plane was on the water. Thanks for going with me. You want me to secure the plane? You coming in? You know how. It's a boat with wings at this point. I know how to secure a boat to a dock. Jacob nodded toward Meg, who walked down to meet them. You have other business? Yeah, I do. See you later, then. He stepped out onto the flotation, praying he didn't lose his balance and mortify himself by pitching into the lake. But he stepped safely on one end of the dock just as Meg stepped on the other. Where's he going? She called out when Jacob glided away. Said there was other business. He reached for her hand. You're back early. No, you're back late. It's nearly 8. He looked up at the sky, still bright as noon. I'm not used to it yet. Woman, where's my supper? Ha ha ha. You can throw a couple of moose burgers on the grill. Moose burgers, a personal favorite. You get anything more in Anchorage? No, at least not investigationally. And how was your day? Actually, I was in Anchorage briefly myself, and since I was there, I happened to wander into this shop where they happened to have wedding dresses. Really? Stop grinning. I'm still firm on not wanting a big fancy deal. Just a wild party right here at the house. But I decided I do want a kick-ass dress, one that'll make your eyes pop out. Did you find it? That's for me to know and you to find out. She stepped up on the porch ahead of him and gave him a smacking kiss. I like my moose burger well done and the bun lightly toasted. Check. But before we dine, I did a little marriage shopping today myself. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. He pulled the ring box out of his pocket. Guess what this is? Mine! Gimme! He flipped the top open and had the pleasure of seeing her eyes pop when she saw the full-cut solitaire flanked by sparkling channel cuts on a platinum band. Holy shit! She grabbed it out of the box, held it aloft, and jumped off the porch. She danced around the yard, crowing out sound as he took his approval. Does that mean you like it? Sparkly! She spun laughing circles all the way back to him. This, Chief Burke, is a ring. How much did it set you back?
Jesus, Meg. She kept laughing like a loon. I know, tacky, and I don't really want to know. It's a killer, Nate, an absolute killer. It's stupid and extravagant, so it's perfect, absolutely perfect. She held it out, then dropped it into his open palm. Okay, put it on me, and hurry up. Excuse me, but can we have a little dignity for this part? I think we've already crossed the point of no return on that. She wiggled her fingers. Come on, give it up. Good thing I didn't rack my brain trying to come up with something poetic to say when I did this. He slipped it on her finger where it sparkled insanely. Be careful you don't put your eye out with that thing. When do I go splat? Sorry? I just keep falling more and more in love with you. When do I finally hit bottom and go splat? She framed his face in the way that always made his heart roll over in his chest. I don't know if I'm perfect for you, Nate, but you sure as hell are for me. He took the hand that wore the ring and kissed it. If and when we splat, we'll do it together. Let's go make moose burgers. 30. What are these? Meg looked at the ring of keys in Nate's hand, deliberately furrowed her brow. Those would be keys? Why do you need so many keys? Because there are so many locks. Is this a quiz? He jingled them in his palm while she continued to give him a sunny, innocent smile. Meg, you don't even lock your doors half the time. What are all these keys about? Well, there are times a person needs to get into a place, and hey, that place is locked. Then she would need a key. And this place that, hey, is locked wouldn't be the property of that person. Would that be correct? Technically, but no man is an island, and it takes a village, and so on. We're all one in the Zen universe? So these would be Zen keys. Exactly. Give them back. I don't think so. He closed his fist around them. You see, even in the Zen universe, I'd hate to arrest my wife for unlawful entry. I'm not your wife yet, buddy. Do you have a search warrant for those? They were in plain sight. No warrant necessary. Gestapo, delinquent. He cupped her chin in his free hand and kissed her. Opening the rear hatch of his four-wheel, he called the dogs. Come on, boys, let's go for a ride. She refused to leave the dogs alone at the house now. They went with her, to Jacob's, or on a day when jobs made that inconvenient, to the run at the lodge. He gave the still healing bull a little help on the jump. Fly safe, he said to Meg. Yeah. With her hands jammed in her pockets, she headed down to the plane, then turned and walked backward. I can get more keys, you know. I have my ways. You sure do, Nate murmured. He waited, as was his habit, for her to take off. He liked to watch her glide from water to air and to stand while the stillness erupted with her engines. While he did, he let himself think of nothing but her, of them, of the life they were building. She was already working in what he'd discovered, after the snow had melted, was a pair of flower beds flanking her porch. She talked of columbine and trolleus, and of the wolf urine she sprinkled around to protect them from moose. Her delphiniums, she promised, would reach near 10 feet in the long days of summer. Imagine that, he thought. Imagine Meg Galloway, bush pilot, bear killer, illegal entry addict, tending a garden. She claimed her dahlias were as big as hubcaps. He wanted to see them. Wanted to sit on the porch with her on some endless summer night with the sun ruling the sky and her flowers spread out in front of the house. Simple, he thought. Their life could be made up of thousands of simple moments, and still never be ordinary. Her plane rose up and up, a little red bird in a vast blue sky, and he smiled, felt the quick lift in his heart when she dipped her wings, right and left, in salute. When there was stillness again, he climbed in the car with the dogs, and thought of other things. Maybe it was foolish to pin so much on an earring, a small piece of silver, and an unsubstantiated claim that Galloway had possessed an undisclosed amount of cash. But he'd seen that earring before, and he'd remember. Sooner or later, he'd remember, and money was no stranger to murder. He let it sift through his head as he drove into town. Galloway had possessed ready cash and a beautiful woman, tried and true motives for murder. And in a place like this, women were rare commodities. The parade committee had already started hanging the bunting for May Day.
It wasn't the red, white, and blue usual for small-town parades. Why would it be usual in lunacy? Instead, banners and bunting were a rainbow of blues, yellows, greens. He saw an eagle perched on a swag of it, as if granting his approval. Along the main street, people were sprucing up their homes and businesses for spring. Pots and hanging baskets of pansies and curly kale, both of which he'd learned didn't mind the chill, were already set out. Porches and shutters sported fresh coats of paint. Motorcycles and scooters replaced snowmobiles. Kids started to ride bikes to school, and he saw more Doc Martens and Timberlands than bunny boots. And still the mountains that ringed the shimmers of spring, that rose into a sky that held the light for 14 hours a day, clung relentlessly to winter. Nate parked, led the dogs to the run. They gave him pitiful looks, their tails sinking between their legs as they trudged inside. I know, it sucks. He crouched, sticking his fingers through the chain link so they could be licked. Let me catch the bad guy, then your mom won't worry so much, and you could stay home and play. They whined when he walked away and gave him a bellyful of guilt. He went in through the lobby and tracked down Charlene in her office. I hired 3 college students for the summer. She gave her computer a pat. I'm going to need them with the bookings we've got. That's good. Local guides always take on a few, too. The place will be hopping with pretty college boys by June. There was a glitter in her eyes as she said it, but to Nate it looked more like defiance than anticipation. That'll keep us all busy. Charlene, he closed the door. I'm going to ask you something and you're not going to like it. Since when has that stopped you? No way to be delicate, he decided. Who's the first person you slept with after Galloway left? I don't kiss and tell, Nate. If you'd ever taken me up on it, you'd know that. This isn't gossip, Charlene, and it isn't a game. Does it matter to you who killed Pat Galloway? Of course it does. Do you know how hard it is to plan his funeral? Knowing he's still in some morgue, and not knowing exactly when I can bring him home? I ask being every other day when he thinks the ground will be soft enough to dig my Pat's grave. She snatched 2 tissues out of the box on her desk, sniffled into them. When my mother buried my father, Nate said, she walked around the house like a ghost for a month. Longer, I guess. She did everything she had to do, like you are. But you couldn't reach her. You couldn't touch her. She went away somewhere. I was never able to reach her again. Charlene blinked at tears, lowered the tissues. That's so sad. You haven't done that. You haven't let it make a ghost out of you. Now I'm asking you to help me. Who moved on you, Charlene? Who didn't? I was young and fine to look at. You should have seen me back then. Something stirred. He reached out to grab the tail of it when she exploded. And I was alone. I didn't know he was dead. If I'd known, I wouldn't have been so quick to... I was hurt, and I was mad. And when the men came swarming around, why shouldn't I have taken my pick? Taken lots of picks. There's no blame here. I slept with John first. Her shoulder jerked, and she tossed the tissue into her pink wastebasket. I knew he had a crush on me. He was so sweet about it. Attentive, she said wistfully now. So I went to him. But not only him. I filled up on it. I broke hearts and I broke up marriages. And I didn't care. She steadied herself, and for once looked quiet, almost thoughtful. Nobody killed Pat because of me. Or if they did, they wasted their time, because I never cared about any of them. I never gave them anything I didn't take back. He isn't dead because of me. If he is, I swear I don't think I can live with it. He's not dead because of you. He walked around her, behind her, and laid his hands on her shoulders to rub gently. He's not. She lifted a hand, closed it over his. I kept waiting for him to come back. For him to see I wasn't pining for him. And want me again. I swear to God, Nate. I think I waited for that until you and Meg went up there. Until you found him. I was waiting for him. He would have come back. He tightened his grip when she shook her head. You get to know the victim when you do what I do. You get inside them and understand them better. a lot of the time better than people who knew them living. He'd have come back.
"That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me,"
she said after a moment.
"Especially somebody who's not trying to get in my pants."
He gave her shoulders a pat and took the earring out of his pocket. "Do you recognize this?"
"Hmm?"
She sniffled again, flicked her finger over her lashes to dry them.
"It's sort of pretty, but I don't know. Male? Not my kind of thing. I like splashier."
Could it have been Pat's?
"Pat's? No. He didn't have anything like that. No crosses. He didn't go for religious symbols."
Have you ever seen it before?
"I don't think so. Wouldn't remember if I had, I guess. It's not much of a thing."
He decided to start showing it around, get reactions. Since Bing was having breakfast in the lodge, Nate walked by his table, let the earring dangle from his fingers. "Lose this?" Bing barely gave it a glance before staring back into Nate's eyes. "Last time I told you I lost something, I got nothing but grief." "I like to get things back to their rightful owner." "It ain't mine." "Know whose it is?" "Don't spend a lot of time looking at people's ears, and I don't want to spend any more time looking at your face." "Nice to see you again too, Bing." He put the earring away. Bing had trimmed his beard an inch or so, Nate noticed, and figured it was his warm weather look. "February, 1988. I can't find anybody around who can tell me absolutely you were here through that month. I found a couple who think maybe you weren't." "People should mind their own, like I do." "Max was gone. I hear you had a hankering, let's say, for Carrie back then." "No more than any other woman." "Seems like a good time to have moved in on her some. You strike me as a man who doesn't let opportunities go to waste." "She wasn't interested, so why waste my time? Shit. Easier to find one and pay the hourly rate. Maybe I went down to Anchorage that winter. There was a whore named Kate I had some transactions with. So'd Galloway. His business." "Whoring Kate?" "Yeah, dead now. Damn shame." He shrugged it off as he ate. "Dropped dead of a heart attack between Johns. They say, anyway." He leaned forward. "I didn't kill that dog." "You say, anyway. You seem more concerned with that than with two dead men." "Men can take care of themselves better than an old blind dog. Maybe I was in the city some that winter. Maybe I ran into Galloway going through Kate's swinging door. Didn't mean a damn to me." "You talked to him?" "I had other things on my mind. So did he. Poker game." Nate lifted his eyebrows as if mildly surprised, mildly interested. "Is that so? You're remembering a lot of details all of a sudden." "You're in my face all the damn time, aren't you? Spoiling my appetite, so I've been thinking on it." "You get in on the poker game?" "I went for a whore, not to gamble." "Did he mention plans to climb No Name?" "He was yanking his pants up, Christ's sake, and I was about to yank mine down. We didn't chat. Said he was riding a streak, took a break to bank Kate and was heading back. Kate said something about the place being lousy with lunatics, and that was fine with her. Business was good. Then we got down to it." "Did you see Galloway again after your business was concluded?" "Don't remember seeing him." Bing stabbed at his food. "Maybe he came in the bar, maybe he didn't. I headed on up to see Ike Transky. Trapper I knew used to have a place outside Squenta. Bunked with him a few days and did some hunting, little ice fishing. Came back here." "Transky back you up on that?" Bing's eyes went hard as agate beads. "Don't need anybody to back me up what I say. Dead now anyway. Died in 96. Convenient, Nate thought as he walked out. The two people Bing named as potential alibis were dead or gone. Or you could turn the prism and look at it from a different facet. Stolen gloves, a stolen knife, both left near a dead dog, property of a man who'd seen and spoken to Galloway. It wasn't too much of a stretch to imagine Galloway going back to that game or stopping for a drink with friends. Guess who I just ran into on his way to bang Whoring Kate? Small world, Nate thought. Small, old world. If Bing was telling the truth, It might be the killer was worried Galloway had mentioned who else from Lunacy was playing poker and paying for whores. Nate decided to make a few stops, dangling his single piece of evidence on the way to the station. Later in the day, he showed it to Otto. The deputy shrugged.
"Doesn't mean anything to me."
A coolness had come between them, a stiff formality Nate regretted, but it couldn't be helped. I always thought the Maltese cross was more military than religious. Otto never blinked.
"Marines I served with didn't wear earrings."
Well, as he had at every stop through the day, Nate put the earring back in his pocket, buttoned it.
"It's going around that you're showing that thing to everybody. People are wondering why their chief of police is spending time on a lost earring."
Full service, Nate said easily.
Chief, Pete said from her counter, we got a report of a bear in Ginny Mann's garage off Rancor. Her husband's out with a hunting party, Peach added. She's home alone with a 2-year-old.
Tell her we're coming. Otto? When they pulled onto the pitted lane 1.5 miles north of town, Otto flicked a glance at Nate.
"I sure hope you don't plan to have me drive this thing around like a maniac while you lean out the damn window there and shoot warning shots over some bear's idiot head."
We'll see what we see. What the hell is a bear doing in a garage?
"He's not fixing a carburetor."
At Nate's snicker, Otto grinned, and sobered again as he remembered what was between them.
"Somebody forgot and left the door open, most likely. They might have a can full of dog food or bird food in there, when that dumbass bear went in to see if there was anything interesting."
When they pulled up in front of the 2-story cabin with attached garage, Nate saw the garage door was indeed open. He didn't know if the bear was responsible for the mess he could see inside, or if the man's just pitched things in there like it was the town dump. Ginny opened the front door. Her red hair was piled up on her head, and her loose overshirt and hands were splattered with paint.
He went around back. He's been crashing around inside there for 20 minutes. I thought he'd just go on, but I was afraid he'd try to get through the door to the house.
Stay inside, Ginny, Nate ordered.
"You get a look at him?"
Otto called out.
I got a look at him through the front when he lumbered up.
Behind her there was the sound of insane barking and the wail of a toddler.
I had the dog inside and was upstairs working in the studio when Roger started carrying on. Woke the baby. I'm about to go crazy from the noise. Brown bear. Didn't look full grown, but big enough.
"Bears are curious,"
Otto commented as they checked their rifles and started around the side of the garage.
"If he's a young one, he was likely just poking around and he'll run off quick enough when he sees us."
Around back, Nate could see the mans had roped off a patch of ground for a garden. Apparently the bear had tromped through it coming or going, and had spent some time beating up a plastic crate full of newspapers and mail-order catalogs. Nate scanned and then gestured when he spotted a brown rump through the trees. There he goes.
"Better give him a little scare, get him running. Discourage him from coming back."
Otto aimed the rifle skyward, fired 2 rounds, and Nate watched with some amusement as the bear hustled its fat rump and ran away. He stood watching its progress beside a man who was on his list of suspects. That was easy enough.
"More often than not, it is."
Sometimes it's not. Meg and I had to take one down the other night at her place.
"Is that what got at her dog? I heard her dog got clawed up some."
Yeah. It would have gotten at us too if we hadn't killed it first. Somebody baited the house. Otto's eyes narrowed into slits.
"What the hell are you talking about?"
I'm talking about somebody hanging meat, fresh, bloody meat, in thin plastic bags on Meg's house. Otto's mouth went tight. Then he turned sharply away, paced off several steps. Nate rested his hand on the butt of his weapon.
"You're asking if it was me?"
Otto strode back, stood toe-to-toe with Nate.
"You want to know if I do something that cowardly, that vicious? If I do something that could get 2 people ripped to pieces, and one of them a woman?"
He jabbed his finger into Nate's chest, twice.
"I'll take you tossing my name into the hat when it comes to Galloway. Even when it comes to Max. It galls me you tossed it in there over Yukon, but I swallowed it. But I'll be goddamn if I'll take this. I was a Marine. I know how to kill a man if I need to. I know how to do it quick, and I know plenty of places I could get rid of a body where nobody on this earth would find it."
That's what I figured. So I'm asking you, Otto, because you know the people around here. Who'd stoop that low? He trembled. The rage was still on him, Nate could see. He had the rifle in his hand, but even in temper it was pointed at the ground.
I don't know, but he doesn't deserve to live.
The earring I showed you belongs to him. Interest won over the anger in his eyes.
You found it out at Meg's?
No, in Galloway's cave. So here's what we're going to think about. Who did Galloway like and trust who could handle a winter climb? Who gained something by his death? Who wore this? He added, patting his pocket. Who considered himself a badass back then, and who could leave town for a couple of weeks without anyone commenting?
You're letting me back in.
Yeah. Let's go tell Ginny the coast is clear. It was a toss-up who was more surprised when Meg swung by to pick up her dogs. She herself, or Charlene, who was caught red-handed feeding the dogs table scraps.
Didn't see why it should go to waste. These dogs hate being penned up. It's just until Bull's fully healed.
They stood there, awkwardly, while the dogs ate.
Do you know what got at him?
Charlene asked after a moment.
Bear. Well, God. He's lucky he only got a few scrapes.
Charlene crouched and made kissing noises at Bull.
Poor baby. I always forget you like dogs. You never keep one. I've got enough to look after around here.
She glanced over and Meg's ring caught the sun in shot light.
I heard about that too.
She gripped Meg's hand, pulling it up under her nose as she rose.
Joanne at the clinic got a load of it, told Rose and Rose told me. Seems I might have heard about it from you. He really stepped up to the plate, didn't he? Lucky me. Yeah, lucky you.
Charlene let Meg's hand go. She started to walk away, stopped.
Lucky him, too.
Meg said nothing for a moment. I'm waiting for the shot.
No shot. You look good together. Better together than you look otherwise. If you're going to go and marry somebody, it might as well be somebody you look good with. How about somebody who makes me happy? That's what I mean.
Okay. Okay, Meg repeated.
Maybe I could give you a party. Like an engagement party.
Meg dipped her hands into the pockets of her jean jacket.
We're not going to wait very long. Doesn't seem like we need a party when we'll only be engaged about a month. Well, whatever.
Charlene, Meg said before she could leave. Maybe you could help with the wedding thing. She watched pleasure and surprise run over Charlene's face.
I don't want fancy, just something out at the house. But I want a party with it, a big one. You're good at putting those things together. I could do that. Even if you don't want fancy, you need good food, lots of liquor. And it should be pretty. Flowers and decoration. We could talk about it. All right. There's something I have to do now. Maybe we could talk about it tomorrow? Tomorrow's good. Maybe since they've just eaten, I could leave the dogs here a little while, pick up some supplies and things. I'll see you tomorrow then.
Charlene went in quickly before she could change her mind. She went straight up to John's room, knocked. It's open. He sat at his cramped little desk but stood when she came in. Charlene, sorry, I'm grading papers. I really need to get this done.
Don't go.
She leaned back against the door.
Please, don't go.
I can't stay, so I have to go. I've turned in my resignation. I'm helping Hop find a replacement for me.
There's no replacement for you, John. Whatever you think about the other men, I've been bad to you. I knew you loved me, but I didn't let myself care. I liked knowing there was somebody who was there whenever I needed him, but I didn't let myself care.
I know. I know that all too well, Charlene. I finally got the belly to deal with it.
Please, let me say this.
Eyes pleading, she crossed her hands over her breasts.
I'm scared. I've got to get it out before I run out of courage. I liked having men want me, seeing that look in their eyes. I liked taking them to bed, especially the young ones, so I could believe in the dark, when their hands are on me in the dark. I haven't seen 40 yet. She touched her face now. I hate getting older, John. Seeing new lines in the mirror every day. As long as men want me, I can pretend the lines aren't there. I've been scared and angry a long time. And I'm tired. She took a step forward. Please don't go, John. Please don't leave me. You're the only one since Pat I could rest with, feel quiet with. I don't know if I love you, but I want to. If you stay, I'll try. I'm not Karl Heidel, Charlene, and I can't settle any more. I can't sit in here with a book for comfort when you've taken someone else to bed. There won't be anyone else. There won't be other men, I swear. If you'll just stay and give me a chance. I don't know if I love you, she said again, but I know thinking about being without you's breaking my heart. That's the first time in more than 16 years you've ever come in this room and talked to me. Said anything real to me. It's a long time to wait. Too long? Tell me it's not too long. He crossed to her, put his arms around her, his cheek to the top of her head. I don't know. I don't think either one of us knows. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Nate pinned his badge on a khaki shirt that carried the Lunacy PD symbol on the sleeve. He'd been informed by Her Honor the Mayor that May Day required a more official look. When he strapped on his gun, Meg made a long, cops are so sexy. Why don't you come back to bed? I've got to go in early. Should already be there. Including the participants, we're expecting close to 2,000 in town today. Hop and Charlene did some major PR. Who doesn't love a parade? All right. Since you're being so official, give me 10 and I'll fly you in. It'll take longer for you to do your systems checks and fly there than it will for me to drive it. Besides, you can't get ready in 10. Can too, especially if somebody goes down and makes the coffee. Even as he looked at his watch and sighed, she dashed into the bathroom. When he came back with 2 mugs, she was pulling her red shirt over a white scoop-necked tee. Consider me amazed. I know how to budget time, cutie. This way we can have some wedding talk on the way in. I managed to pull the plug on Charlene's notion of renting a pergola and covering it with pink roses. What's a pergola? Beats me, but we're not having it. She's majorly bummed because she claims it's not only romantic, but essential for the wedding photos. It's nice that the two of you are getting along. It won't last, but it makes life marginally easier for the time being. She gulped down coffee. 2 minutes for the face, she said and scooted back into the bathroom. She and Big Mike have their heads together on this behemoth wedding cake. I'm giving her her head there. I like cake. We're tangling about the flowers. I'm not being buried in pink roses, but we've agreed on a few things, like getting a professional photographer. Snapshots are great, but this is a monumental deal, so we go with a pro. Oh, and she says you have to get a new suit. I already have a suit. She says you have to have a new one, and it has to be gray, steel gray, not dove gray. Or maybe it was dove gray and not steel gray. I don't know. And I'm tossing you to the wolves on that one, Burke. You argue with her. I can buy a suit, he muttered. I can buy a gray suit. Do I get to pick out my own underwear? Ask Charlene. There. Done. Let's go. Aren't you ready yet? You're holding up the parade. She laughed when he made a grab for her and let him chase her down the stairs. They were at the door when he stopped, when it clicked into place for him, when that jolt of memory became knowledge. Snapshot. God damn! What? Meg pushed at her hair as he charged back upstairs. You want a camera? Men, Jesus! And they're always harping about women not being on time. She trudged back upstairs, then stared in astonishment while he dragged her albums and boxes of photos from the closet to dump them on the bed. What are you doing? It's in here. I remember. I'm sure of it. What's in there? What are you doing with my pictures? It's in here. Summer picnic? No. Campfire shot. Or, damn it. Just a minute here. How do you know there's a campfire shot in there, or summer picnics, or anything else? I snooped. Scold me later. You can count on it. The earring, Meg. I saw it when I was looking through here. I know I saw it. She shoved him aside so she could grab a stack. Who was wearing it? Who did you see? She scanned pictures, tossed them out like toy airplanes. Group shot, he murmured, straining to bring it into focus. Party shot. Holiday. Christmas.
He grabbed the album she reached for and flipped through to the end.
There. Bullseye.
New Year's Eve. They let me stay up. I took that picture myself. I took it.
Her hand trembled as she peeled back the plastic, pulled the photograph free. The edge of the tree was in the corner, the colored lights and balls blurry. She'd gone in close, so it was just the faces. Nearly only the faces, though she remembered now that her father had his guitar on his lap. He'd been laughing, with Charlene pulled tight against him so her cheek was pressed right up against his. Max had mugged his way in from behind the couch, but she'd cut off the top of his head. But the one who sat on the other side of her father, his head turned slightly as he smiled at someone across the room, was clear, as was the silver Maltese cross dangling from his ear. 31. It's not proof, Meg. Not 100%.
Don't give me that cop bullshit, Burke.
As he drove, she sat with her arms folded tight at her waist, as if holding in a pain. It's not bullshit. It's circumstantial. It's good, but it's circumstantial. His mind worked back, forward, covering the ground. The earring was handled by at least 2 people before it came to me. No forensics. It's a common design, probably thousands of them out there during that time. He could have lost it, given it away, borrowed it himself. The fact that he wore it in a photograph taken more than 16 years ago doesn't prove he was on that mountain. A brain-dead defense attorney could smash it in a trial.
He killed my father.
Ed holds a grudge. Hop had told him that after the run-in with Hawley. All those connecting lines. Galloway to Max, Galloway to Bing, Galloway to Stephen Wise. You can add more. Wolcott to Max, the concerned old friend helping the widow with the memorial. Wolcott to Bing, implicating the man who might know, who might remember a casual conversation from 16 years before. Hawley's slashed tires and spray-painted truck, payback for the wreck, disguised as childish vandalism. Money. Ed Wolcott was the money man. What better way to hide a sudden cash windfall than your own bank?
That bastard Wolcott killed my father.
That's right. I know it. You know it. He knows it. But building a case is a different thing.
You've been building a case since January, piece by step by layer when the state basically closed it up. I've watched you.
Let me finish it.
What do you think I'm going to do?
She squinted against the sun. She'd walked out of the house without her sunglasses, without anything but her own bubbling need to act.
Walk up to him and put a gun in his ear?
Because he heard it in her voice, the dark grief along with the bright rage. He laid a hand over hers, squeezed. Wouldn't put it past you.
I won't.
It took an effort to turn her hand over, to return that connection when it would have been easy to yank it back. Stay alone with the storming emotions.
But I'm going to see his face, Nate. I'm going to be there when I can see his face when you take him in.
The main street was already lined with people staking their claim on position. Folding chairs and coolers stood on curb and sidewalk, many already occupied or in use as people sat and slurped on drinks in plastic cups. The air was already buzzing with noise, shouts and squeals and laughter spearing up through the blast of music from KLUN. Trucks offering snow cones, ice cream, hot dogs, and other parade food were parked on corners and down side streets. Rainbow bunting waved in the breeze. 2,000 people, Nate estimated, and a good chunk of them kids. A normal day in lunacy, he could have walked into the bank and taken Ed quietly in his office. It wasn't a normal day, in any stretch. He parked at the station, pulled Meg inside with him.
Otto and Peter,
he demanded of Peach.
Out with the horde where I should be.
Irritation marred her eyes as she smoothed the flowing skirt, the color of daffodils, over her ample hips.
We thought you'd be here before.
Call them both in.
Nate, we got over 100 people already lining up on the school grounds. We need...
Call them both in, he snapped. He kept walking, one hand on Meg's arm, into his office. I want you to stay here.
No. It's not only stupid and wrong for you to expect that, it's disrespectful.
He's got a concealed license.
So do I. Give me a gun.
Meg, he's already killed 3 times. He'll do whatever he can to protect himself.
I'm not something you can bundle away safe. I'm not— Yes, you are. It's your first instinct, but get over it. I won't ask you not to bring your work home or complain when it interferes with my life. I won't ask you to be what you're not. Don't ask that of me. Give me a gun. I promise I won't use it unless I have to. I don't want him dead. I want him alive, rotting. I want him healthy so he rots for a long, long time. I want to know what's going on. Her hands fisted on her hips. Peach filled the doorway. I called those boys back, and now we've got no one out there keeping order. A bunch of high school boys have already run a tie-dyed bra up the flagpole. One of the draft horses kicked a tourist who's probably going to sue. And those lame-brained Mackey boys hauled in a keg of Budweiser and are already skunk drunk. Frustration had the words shooting out like machine gun fire. They stole a bunch of balloons, too, and are, right this damn minute, marching up and down the street like fools. We've got reporters here, Nate. We got media attention, and it just isn't the image we want to project.
Where's Ed Wolcott?
With Hop at the school by now. They're supposed to ride behind those damn horses. What is going on?
Call Sergeant Coben in Anchorage. Tell him I'm taking a suspect in the Patrick Galloway homicide into custody. I don't want to spook him, Nate told his deputies. I don't want violence or a panic in the kind of crowd we're dealing with. Civilian safety is first order.
The three of us ought to be able to take him down pretty quick and simple.
Maybe, Nate acknowledged. But I'm not risking civilian lives on maybe, Otto. He's not going anywhere. At this point, he has no reason to attempt flight, so we can contain him. While we have this parade to deal with, at least one of us will have him in visual contact at all times. He turned to the corkboard. We've got Peach's parade route and schedule right here. He comes right after the high school band. That's position 6 on the program. They'll go from the school into the town proper, down Lunatic, and out again. They'll stop here at Buffalo Inlet, then turn off to come around the back way to the school to offload. At that point, it won't be as crowded there and we can take them quietly, with minimal civilian risk.
One of us can go back up to the school grounds, Peter put in. After they've gotten to the far end of town, clear out the civilians.
That's exactly what I want you to do. We take him quietly at the end of the route. We bring him back here and let Coben know the suspect is in custody.
You're just going to turn him over to the state cop?
Otto demanded.
Just here you go, pal, after you've done all the work?
It's Coben's case.
Bullshit. State brushed this off. Didn't want the mess and bother and took the easy way.
Not entirely true, Nate said. But regardless, this is how it's done. How it's going to be done. He didn't need collars and commendations. Not anymore. He just needed to finish the job. From dark to light, he thought. From death to justice. Our priorities are to maintain civilian safety and take the suspect into custody. After that, it's Coben's game.
It's your call. Looks like I'll have to be satisfied to watch Ed shit bricks when you slap the cuffs on him. Bastard killed that poor old dog.
Otto glanced at Meg, colored a little.
And the others, Pat and Max. Just the dog was most recent, that's all.
It's okay, Meg offered a grim smile. As long as he pays for all of it, it's okay.
Well,
Otto cleared his throat, stared hard at the maps pinned to the corkboard.
when they go around the back roads, we'll lose visual, he pointed out.
No, I'll have that covered. A couple of civilian volunteers. He glanced up as Jacob and Bing walked in.
Said you had a job.
Bing scratched his belly.
What's it pay?
Meg waited until he'd dispensed two ways and sent the men out to take up their initial positions.
And where am I in all this?
With me?
Good enough.
She'd pulled her shirt out to cover the holstered .38 at the small of her back. They might question why you're not doing the flyby, as scheduled.
Engine trouble, she said as they started out. Sorry about that.
The crowd was full of color and noise and cheers, with the smell of grilling meat and sugar filling the air. Kids were running around a streamer and flower-decorated maypole erected for the event in front of Town Hall. He saw the doors of the lodge were open, and Charlene was doing a brisk business with those who wanted a more substantial lunch than could be had on the street. Side streets were barricaded against vehicular traffic. A young couple sat on one of the barricades making out with some enthusiasm, while a group of their friends played hacky-sack in the street behind them. A television crew out of Anchorage was doing a pan of the crowd from the opposite corner. Tourists shot videos or browsed the folding tables and portable booths where local crafts and jewelry were sold. Beaded leather bags, dream catchers, elaborate native masks hung on folding screens. Plain and fancy mucklucks and hand-woven grass baskets ranged over the folding tables or slabs of plywood set on sawhorses. Though it was warm and sunny, caps and scarves made of kiviot, the underwool of the Arctic musk ox, sold briskly. The Italian place sold slices of pizza to go. The corner store had a special on disposable cameras and bug dope. A spin rack of postcards stood just outside the door. They ran 3 for $2. An enterprising little town, Meg commented as they drove through. It is that. And after today, a safer one, thanks to you. Otto nailed it. It's thanks to you, Chief. Aw, shucks, ma'am. She rubbed a hand over his. You say that like Gary Cooper, but you've got Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry years in your eyes. Just don't... I'm trusting you. You can. There was an icy calm over the rage now. If there was overflow, if that rage bubbled up and cracked the calm, she'd freeze it up again. I need to be there, but we can say this is your bear to take down. Okay. It's going to be a beautiful day for a parade, she said after a long breath. The air's so still, though, like it's waiting for something. They pulled up at the school. I guess this is it. The marching bands were decked out in the bright blue uniforms with their brass buttons and instruments gleaming with polish. Horns clashed as different sections practiced, and adults in charge shouted out instructions. Drums boomed. The hockey team was already loading up, sticks clacking as they herded into position. They'd lead the parade with their regional champions banner hiding the rust on Bing's flatbed truck. A test of the recording and speakers had Queen's "We Are the Champions" pouring out.
There you are.
Hop, snappy in a suit of hot candy pink, hurried up to him.
Ignatius, I thought we were going to have to run this show without you.
Handling things in town. You've got a full house.
And an NBC affiliate to document it.
Her cheeks were nearly as pink as her suit with the excitement of it.
Meg, shouldn't you be getting up there?
She pointed skyward. Engines down, Hop. Sorry.
Oh, well, poop. Do you know if Doug Clooney's got his boat out on the river yet? I've been looking for Peach or Deb. They're supposed to be driving herd around here, but everyone's running around like chickens.
I'm sure he's out there, and Deb's right over there, getting the hockey team settled.
Oh, good God, we're starting. Ed, stop primping for 5 seconds. I don't know why I let them talk me into riding behind these horses. Don't see why we couldn't have gotten a convertible. It's more dignified.
But not as much of a spectacle. Ed smiled broadly as he joined them. He wore a navy 3-piece suit, bankerly with its chalk stripes and flashy with its paisley tie. Guess we should have had our chief of police behind the horses. Maybe next time, Nate said easily. I haven't congratulated you on your engagement. His eyes were watchful on Nate's as he held out a hand. He considered doing it now, right now. He could have him down and cuffed in under 10 seconds. And 3 elementary kids rushed between them, chased by another with a plastic gun. A pretty young majorette in sparkles hurried over to retrieve the missed baton that landed near his feet. Sorry, Chief Burke. It got away from me. No problem. Thanks, Ed. He extended his hand to complete the aborted shake and again thought, maybe now. Jesse ran up, threw his arms around Nate's knees. I get to be in the parade, the boy shouted. I get to wear a costume and march right down the street. Are you going to watch me, Chief Nate? Absolutely.
Don't you look handsome?
Hop commented and crouched down to Jesse as the boy slipped his hand trustfully into Nate's. Not here, Nate told himself. Not now. No one gets hurt today. Hope you'll come to the wedding, he said to Ed. Wouldn't miss it. Couldn't settle for a local, eh, Meg? He survived a winter. That makes him local enough. I suppose it does.
Jesse, you better get back to your group.
Hop gave him a little pat on the butt, and he ran off shouting, Watch me!
Help me up into this thing, Ed. We're about to go.
We're gonna walk back down a ways, Nate said as they climbed into the buggy. Things seem under control here. I want to make sure the Mackeys are behaving themselves.
Stealing balloons.
Hop cast her eyes to heaven.
I heard about that.
Nate took Meg's hand and strolled away.
Does he know?
She asked him. I'm worried. Too many people around, Meg. Too many kids.
I know.
She gave his hands a squeeze as the marching band's boots began to click on the pavement.
It'll be over soon. It doesn't take that long to get from one end of town to the other and back again.
It would be interminable, he knew, with the crowds, the shouts and cheers, the blaring music. An hour, he told himself. An hour tops and he could take him without anyone getting hurt. No need to run into an alley this time. No need to risk the dark. He kept his stride steady but unrushed as he passed the fringes of the crowd and made his way to the heart of town. The trio of majorettes danced by waving and tossing their batons to enthusiastic applause. The one who'd nearly beamed him shot Nate a big, toothy smile. The drum major strutted in his high hat, and the band cut loose with We Will Rock You. He spotted Peter at the first intersection and turned his head to press his lips to Meg's ears. Let's keep walking. Down there to the balloon guy. I'll buy you a balloon. They'll pass us and we'll keep them in sight a little longer.
A red one?
Naturally. End of town circle around, he thought. The hockey team would already be done and moving back into town to see their friends mixed with the crowd. The band would head into the school to change out of their uniforms. Out of the way. Most everyone out of the way. And Peter there to move any lingerers along. He stopped by the clown with the orange mop of hair and a fistful of balloons. Geez, Harry, is that you in there? Deb's idea. Well, you look real cute. Nate angled himself to see the buggy, the crowd. My girl wants a red one. Nate reached for his wallet, listening with half an ear as Harry and Meg debated which shape would do. He watched Peter move down the opposite sidewalk, and as the band marched by, taking the sound with them, he heard the clip-clop of the horses. Kids squealed and dashed out as Hop and Eb tossed handfuls of candy. He passed bills to Harry and continued to turn as if watching the spectacle, and spotted Coben, with his white blonde hair catching the sunlight in the crowd. So, he saw instantly, did Ed. Damn it! Damn it! Why didn't he wait? Panic streaked across Ed's face. Seeing it, Nate began to fight his way through the crowd that was massed into a wall along curbside. He couldn't get there, not in time. He heard the cheers and shouts of the crowd like a tidal wave rushing around him. They applauded when Ed leaped out of the buggy, even when he pulled a gun from under his suit jacket. As if anticipating a show, they started to part for him as he dashed for the opposite side of the street. Then there were screams and shouts as he knocked people aside, trampled over them when they fell. Nate heard gunfire as he shoved his way to the street. Down! Everybody down! He sprinted across the street, leaped over shocked pedestrians, and saw Ed backing down the empty sidewalk behind the barricades, holding a gun to a woman's head. Back away! He shouted. You just toss your gun down and back away! I'll kill her! You know I will! I know you will! He could hear the shouts behind him and the fading music as the band marched on without a clue. There were cars and trucks parked at the curb here, and buildings had side doors that would almost certainly be unlocked. He needed to keep Ed's focus on him, before the man could use his panicked brain enough to think about dragging his hostage into a building. Where you gonna go, Ed? Don't you worry about that! You worry about her! He jerked the woman so that the heels of her jogging shoes bumped the sidewalk. I'll put a bullet in her brain! Like you did Max. Did what I had to do. That's how you survive here. Maybe. There was sweat on Ed's face. Nate could see it glinting in the sunlight. But you won't walk away from this one. I'll drop you where you stand. You know I will. You don't throw that gun down, you'll have killed her. Ed dragged the weeping woman back another 3 feet. Just like you killed your partner. You're a bleeding heart, Burke. You can't live with that. I can. Meg stepped up beside Nate, aimed her gun between Ed's eyes. You know me, you bastard. I'll down you like I would a sick horse, and I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep over it. Meg, Nate warned, ease back. I could kill her and one of you first, if that's what it takes. Her probably,
Meg agreed. But she doesn't mean anything to me. Go ahead. Shoot her. You'll be dead before she hits the ground. Ease back, Meg. Nate lifted his voice now, and his eyes never left Ed's. Do what I tell you, and do it now. Then he heard a chaos of voices, stumbling feet. The crowd was surging forward, Nate knew, with curiosity, fascination, and horror outweighing simple fear. Drop the weapon and let her go, Nate ordered. Do it now, and you've got a chance. Nate saw Coben come around the back and knew someone was going to die. Hell broke loose. Ed whirled, fired. In a flash, Nate saw Coben roll for cover and the splatter of blood from the bullet that caught him high in the shoulder. Coben's service revolver lay on the sidewalk where it had flown out of his hand. Nate heard a second bullet thud into the building beside him, and the sound of 1,000 people screaming. They barely penetrated. His blood was ice. He shoved Meg back, sent her sprawling to the ground. She cursed him as he stepped forward, his gun steady. Anyone dies today, he said coolly. It'll be you, Ed. What are you doing? Ed shouted as Nate continued to walk toward him. What the hell are you doing? My job. My town. Put down the gun, or I'll take you out like that sick horse. Go to hell! With one violent move, he shoved the weeping woman at Nate and dived behind a car. Nate let the woman slide bonelessly to the sidewalk. Nate rolled under another car, came up street side. Crouched, he glanced over to check on Meg and saw her soothing the woman whose life she'd claimed didn't mean anything to her. Go! She snapped out. Get the bastard! Then she began to belly forward toward the injured Coben. Ed fired, the bullet exploding a windshield. This ends here! It ends now! Nate shouted. Throw out your gun, or I'll come and take it from you! You're nothing! There was more than panic, more than rage in Ed's voice. You don't even belong here! There were tears. He broke cover, firing wildly. Glass shattered and flew like lethal stars. Metal pinged and rang. Nate stood, stepped into the street with his weapon lifted. He felt something sting his arm like a fat, angry bee. Drop it, you stupid son of a bitch! On a scream, Ed swung around, aimed, and Nate fired. He saw Ed clutch his hip, saw him go down, and continued forward at the same steady pace until he'd reached the gun Ed had dropped as he'd fallen. You're under arrest, you asshole. You coward. His voice was calm as June as he shoved Ed onto his belly, yanked his arms behind him and cuffed his wrists. Then he crouched, spoke softly while Ed's pain-glazed eyes flickered. You shot a police officer. He glanced, without much interest, at the thin line of blood just above his own elbow. 2. You're done.
We need to get Ken up here.
Hop's query was conversational, but when Nate looked up to see her coming toward him, crunching broken glass under her dressy shoes, he saw the tremor in her hands, her shoulders. Couldn't hurt. He jerked a chin toward the people who'd jumped over, crawled under, or simply shoved barricades aside. You're gonna need to keep those people back.
That's your job, Chief.
She managed a smile, then it frosted as she stared down at Ed.
You know, that TV crew got damn near all of this on camera. Cameraman must be certifiable. One thing we're going to make clear in the upcoming interviews on this unholy mess. This one's the outsider now. He's not one of us.
She shifted deliberately away from Ed, held out a hand to Nate as if to help him to his feet.
But you are. You sure as hell are, Ignatius, and thank God for it.
He took her hand and felt that light tremor in hers as she squeezed his hard. Anybody back there hurt?
Bumps and bruises.
Tears trembled in her eyes, were willed away.
You took care of us.
Good. He nodded when he saw Otto and Peter working to move the crowd back. Then he looked over, found Meg crouched in a doorway. She met his eyes. There was blood on her hands, but it appeared she'd fashioned an expert field dressing on Coben's wounded shoulder. She brushed a hand absently over her cheek, smearing blood, and she grinned and blew him a kiss. They said it was fortunate no lives had been lost, and injuries to civilians, while plentiful, were mostly minor, broken bones, concussions, cuts and bruises, all caused by falls and panic. They said property damage wasn't extensive, broken windows, windshields, a streetlight. Jim Mackey, with considerable pride, told the NBC affiliate reporter he was going to leave the bullet holes in his pickup. They said, all in all, It was a hell of a climax to Lunacy, Alaska's May Day parade. They said a lot of things. Media coverage turned out to be more extensive than the injuries. The violent and bizarre capture of Edward Wolcott, the alleged killer of Patrick Galloway, the Iceman of No Name Mountain, was national fodder for weeks. Nate didn't watch the coverage and settled for reading reports in the Lunatic. As May passed, so did the interest from outside.
Long day,
Meg said as she came out on the porch to sit beside him. I like them long. She handed him a beer and watched the sky with him. It was nearly 10 and brilliantly light. Her garden was planted. Her dahlias, as expected, were spectacular, and the delphiniums speared up, deeply blue on 5-foot stalks. They'd reach taller yet, she thought. They had the whole summer, all those long days washed with light. The day before, she'd buried her father at last. The town had come out for it, to a man. So had the media, but it was the town that mattered to Meg. Charlene had been calm, she thought. For Charlene, anyway. She hadn't even played to the cameras, but had stood, as dignified as Meg had ever seen her, with her hand gripped in the professor's. Maybe they'd make it. Maybe they wouldn't. Life was full of maybes. But she knew one sure thing. Saturday next, she would stand out here in the light of the summer night, with the lake and the mountains in front of her, and marry the man she loved.
"Tell me," she said. "Tell me what you found out today when you went down to talk to Coben."
He knew she'd ask. He knew they'd talk it through, not just because of her father, but because what he himself did, who he was, mattered to her. Ed switched lawyers. Got a hot shot from outside. He's claiming your father was self-defense. That Galloway went crazy and he feared for his life and panicked. He's a banker and he kept banker's records. He's saying he won the $12,000 that suddenly showed up in his account in March of that year. But they'll have witnesses that say different, so it won't fly. He says he had nothing to do with the rest of it. Absolutely nothing. That won't fly either. There was a cloud of mosquitoes near the edge of the woods. They buzzed like a chainsaw and made him grateful for the bug dope he'd slathered on before coming outside. He turned his head to kiss her cheek. Sure you want to hear this?
Keep going.
His wife's turned inside out. Enough so she's spilled enough to rip his alibis for the time of Max's death and Yukon's. Put that in with the yellow spray paint in his tool shed, and Harry stating Ed bought some fresh meat from him the day we had our little encounter with the bear. Weave it all together, you've got a tight little net.
Added to all that is the fact that he held a gun to a tourist's head, shot a state cop, and our chief of police.
She gave his bicep a quick kiss.
All of which, she added, was caught for the record by the NBC cameraman.
She stretched, one long, sinuous move.
Great TV. Our brave and handsome hero shooting the bastard's leg out from under him while he himself was wounded.
Flesh wound.
Standing that bastard down like Cooper in high noon. I'm no Grace Kelly, but I get hot just thinking about it.
Gosh, ma'am. You slapped at a sparrow-sized mosquito that got through the dope. It weren't nothing.
And I look pretty damn good myself, even when you sent me to the damn sidewalk.
You look even better now. The lawyers will try to work it, diminished capacity, temporary insanity, but
it won't fly,
Meg finished. Coben will wrap 'em up, or the DA will. Got their teeth in it now.
If Coben had listened to you, you'd have wrapped him up without all that show.
Maybe.
You could have killed him.
Nate took a small sip of beer and listened to an eagle cry. You wanted him alive. I aim to please.
You do please.
You wouldn't have done it either. Meg stretched out her legs, looked down at the worn toes of her ancient gardening boots. Probably needed new.
Don't be too sure, Nate.
He's not the only one who can bait. You were razzing him, Meg, pushing his button so he'd pull the gun off her and try for one of us.
Did you see her eyes?
No, I was looking at his.
I did. I've seen that kind of scared before. A rabbit with its leg caught in a trap.
She paused to rub the dogs when they galloped up.
If you tell me, no matter how many fancy lower 48 lawyers he hires, that he'll go to jail for a long, long time, I'll believe you.
He'll go to jail for a long, long time.
Okay then. Case closed. Would you like to take a walk down by the lake?
He drew her hand to his lips. I believe I would.
And would you then like to lie down on the bank of the lake and make love until we're too weak to move?
I believe I would. The mosquitoes will probably eat us alive. Some things are worth the risk. He was, she thought. She rose, held out a hand for his. You know, in a little while, when we have sex, it'll be all legal. That going to take any of the spark out of it for you? Not a bit. He looked up at the sky again. I like the long days, but I don't mind the long nights anymore, because I've got the light. He wrapped his arm around her shoulder to draw her close to his side. I've got the light right here. He watched the sun, so reluctant to set, glimmer on the cool, deep water, and the mountains, so fierce and so white, mirrored their eternal winter on the summer blue.
We hope you have enjoyed our presentation of Northern Lights by Nora Roberts. Copyright 2004 by Nora Roberts. Read by Gary Littman. Performance copyright 2004 by Brilliance Audio, all rights reserved. For further information concerning this program or other Brilliance Audio titles, please call the following toll-free number, 1-800-222-3225, or visit our website at www.brillianceaudio.com. No part of this recording may be played for an audience or reproduced in any form. It may not be streamed, downloaded, broadcast, or copied without written permission. Address all inquiries to Brilliance Audio, Post Office Box 887, Grand Haven, Michigan 49417.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Paisley tie.
Guess we should have had our chief of police behind the horses.
Maybe next time, Nate said easily.
I haven't congratulated you on your engagement.
His eyes were watchful on Nate's as he held out a hand. He considered doing it now, right now. He could have him down and cuffed in under 10 seconds. and 3 elementary kids rushed between them, chased by another with a plastic gun. A pretty young majorette in sparkles hurried over to retrieve the missed baton that landed near his feet.
Sorry, Chief Burke. It got away from me.
No problem. Thanks, Ed. He extended his hand to complete the aborted shake and again thought, maybe now. Jesse ran up, threw his arms around Nate's knees.
I get to be in the parade,
The boy shouted.
I get to wear a costume and march right down the street. Are you going to watch me, Chief Nate?
Absolutely.
Don't you look handsome?
Hop commented and crouched down to Jesse as the boy slipped his hand trustfully into Nate's. Not here, Nate told himself. Not now. No one gets hurt today. Hope you'll come to the wedding, he said to Ed. Wouldn't miss it. Couldn't settle for a local, eh, Meg? He survived a winter. That makes him local enough. I suppose it does.
Jesse, you better get back to your group.
Hop gave him a little pat on the butt, and he ran off shouting,
Watch me! Help me up into this thing, Ed. We're about to go.
We're going to walk back down a ways, Nate said as they climbed into the buggy. Things seem under control here. I want to make sure the Mackeys are behaving themselves.
Stealing balloons.
Hop cast her eyes to heaven.
I heard about that.
Nate took Meg's hand and strolled away. Does he know? She asked him. I'm worried. Too many people around, Meg. Too many kids. I know. She gave his hands a squeeze as the marching band's boots began to click on the pavement. It'll be over soon. Doesn't take that long to get from one end of town to the other and back again. It would be interminable, he knew, with the crowds, the shouts and cheers, the blaring music. An hour, he told himself. An hour tops and he could take him without anyone getting hurt. No need to run into an alley this time. No need to risk the dark. He kept his stride steady but unrushed as he passed the fringes of the crowd and made his way to the heart of town. The trio of majorettes danced by, waving and tossing their batons to enthusiastic applause. The one who'd nearly beamed him shot Nate a big, toothy smile. The drum major strutted in his high hat, and the band cut loose with We Will Rock You. He spotted Peter at the first intersection and turned his head to press his lips to Meg's ears. Let's keep walking. Down there to the balloon guy. I'll buy you a balloon. They'll pass us and we'll keep them in sight a little longer. A red one? Naturally. End of town circle around, he thought. The hockey team would already be done and moving back into town to see their friends mixed with the crowd. The band would head into the school to change out of their uniforms. Out of the way. Most everyone out of the way. And Peter there to move any lingerers along. He stopped by the clown with the orange mop of hair and a fistful of balloons. Geez, Harry, is that you in there? Deb's idea. Well, you look real cute. Nate angled himself to see the buggy, the crowd. My girl wants a red one. Nate reached for his wallet, listening with half an ear as Harry and Meg debated which shape would do. He watched Peter move down the opposite sidewalk, and as the band marched by, taking the sound with them, he heard the clip-clop of the horses. Kids squealed and dashed out as Hop and Eb tossed handfuls of candy. He passed bills to Harry and continued to turn as if watching the spectacle, and spotted Coben, with his white blonde hair catching the sunlight in the crowd. So, he saw instantly, did Ed. Damn it! Damn it! Why didn't he wait? Panic streaked across Ed's face. Seeing it, Nate began to fight his way through the crowd that was massed into a wall along curbside. He couldn't get there, not in time. He heard the cheers and shouts of the crowd like a tidal wave rushing around him. They applauded when Ed leaped out of the buggy, even when he pulled a gun from under his suit jacket. As if anticipating a show, they started to part for him as he dashed for the opposite side of the street. Then there were screams and shouts as he knocked people aside, trampled over them when they fell. Nate heard gunfire as he shoved his way to the street. Down! Everybody down! He sprinted across the street, leaped over shocked pedestrians, and saw Ed backing down the empty sidewalk behind the barricades, holding a gun to a woman's head. Back away! He shouted. You just toss your gun down and back away! I'll kill her! You know I will! I know you will! He could hear the shouts behind him and the fading music as the band marched on without a clue. There were cars and trucks parked at the curb here, and buildings had side doors that would almost certainly be unlocked. He needed to keep Ed's focus on him before the man could use his panicked brain enough to think about dragging his hostage into a building. "Where you gonna go, Ed?" "Don't you worry about that! You worry about her!" He jerked the woman so that the heels of her jogging shoes bumped the sidewalk. "I'll put a bullet in her brain!" "Like you did Max." "Did what I had to do. That's how you survive here." "Maybe." There was sweat on Ed's face. Nate could see it glinting in the sunlight. "But you won't walk away from this one. I'll drop you where you stand. You know I will." "You don't throw that gun down, you'll have killed her." Ed dragged the weeping woman back another 3 feet. "Just like you killed your partner. You're a bleeding heart, Burke. You can't live with that." "I can." Meg stepped up beside Nate, aimed her gun between Ed's eyes. "You know me, you bastard. I'll down you like I would a sick horse, and I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep over it." "Meg," Nate warned, "ease back. I could kill her and one of you first, if that's what it takes." "Her probably," Meg agreed. "But she doesn't mean anything to me. Go ahead, shoot her. You'll be dead before she hits the ground." "Ease back, Meg." Nate lifted his voice now, and his eyes never left Ed's. "Do what I tell you, and do it now." Then he heard a chaos of voices, stumbling feet. The crowd was surging forward, Nate knew, with curiosity, fascination, and horror outweighing simple fear. "Drop the weapon and let her go," Nate ordered. "Do it now, and you've got a chance." Nate saw Coben come around the back and knew someone was going to die. Hell broke loose. Ed whirled, fired. In a flash, Nate saw Coben roll for cover and the splatter of blood from the bullet that caught him high in the shoulder. Coben's service revolver lay on the sidewalk where it had flown out of his hand. Nate heard a second bullet thud into the building beside him, and the sound of 1,000 people screaming. They barely penetrated. His blood was ice. He shoved Meg back, sent her sprawling to the ground. She cursed him as he stepped forward, his gun steady. "Anyone dies today," he said coolly, "it'll be you, Ed." "What are you doing?" Ed shouted as Nate continued to walk toward him. "What the hell are you doing?" "My job. My town. Put down the gun, or I'll take you out like that sick horse." "Go to hell!" With one violent move, he shoved the weeping woman at Nate and dived behind a car. Nate let the woman slide bonelessly to the sidewalk. Nate rolled under another car, came up street side. Crouched, he glanced over to check on Meg and saw her soothing the woman whose life she'd claimed didn't mean anything to her. "Go!" she snapped out. "Get the bastard!" Then she began to belly forward toward the injured Coben. Ed fired, the bullet exploding a windshield. "This ends here! It ends now!" Nate shouted. "Throw out your gun, or I'll come and take it from you!" "You're nothing!" There was more than panic, more than rage in Ed's voice. "You don't even belong here!" There were tears. He broke cover, firing wildly. Glass shattered and flew like lethal stars. Metal pinged and rang. Nate stood, stepped into the street with his weapon lifted. He felt something sting his arm like a fat, angry bee. "Drop it, you stupid son of a bitch!" On a scream, Ed swung around, aimed, and Nate fired. He saw Ed clutch his hip, saw him go down, and continued forward at the same steady pace until he'd reached the gun Ed had dropped as he'd fallen. "You're under arrest, you asshole. You coward." His voice was calm as June as he shoved Ed onto his belly, yanked his arms behind him and cuffed his wrists. Then he crouched, spoke softly while Ed's pain-glazed eyes flickered. "You shot a police officer." He glanced, without much interest, at the thin line of blood just above his own elbow. "2. You're done."
"We need to get Ken up here?"
Hop's query was conversational, but when Nate looked up to see her coming toward him, crunching broken glass under her dressy shoes, he saw the tremor in her hands, her shoulders. "Couldn't hurt." He jerked a chin toward the people who'd jumped over, crawled under, or simply shoved barricades aside. "You're gonna need to keep those people back."
"That's your job, Chief."
She managed a smile, then it frosted as she stared down at Ed.
"You know, that TV crew got damn near all of this on camera. Cameraman must be certifiable. One thing we're going to make clear in the upcoming interviews on this unholy mess. This one's the outsider now. He's not one of us.
She shifted deliberately away from Ed, held out a hand to Nate as if to help him to his feet.
But you are. You sure as hell are, Ignatius, and thank God for it.
He took her hand and felt that light tremor in hers as she squeezed his hard. Anybody back there hurt?
Bumps and bruises.
Tears trembled in her eyes, were willed away.
You took care of us.
Good. He nodded when he saw Otto and Peter working to move the crowd back. Then he looked over, found Meg crouched in a doorway. She met his eyes. There was blood on her hands, but it appeared she'd fashioned an expert field dressing on Coben's wounded shoulder. She brushed a hand absently over her cheek, smearing blood, and she grinned and blew him a kiss. They said it was fortunate no lives had been lost, and injuries to civilians, while plentiful, were mostly minor, broken bones, concussions, cuts and bruises, all caused by falls and panic. They said property damage wasn't extensive, broken windows, windshields, a streetlight. Jim Mackey, with considerable pride, told the NBC affiliate reporter he was going to leave the bullet holes in his pickup. They said, all in all, it was a hell of a climax to Lunacy, Alaska's May Day parade. They said a lot of things. Media coverage turned out to be more extensive than the injuries. The violent and bizarre capture of Edward Wolcott, the alleged killer of Patrick Galloway, the Iceman of No Name Mountain, was national fodder for weeks. Nate didn't watch the coverage and settled for reading reports in the Lunatic. As May passed, so did the interest from outside. Long day, Meg said as she came out on the porch to sit beside him. I like them long. She handed him a beer and watched the sky with him. It was nearly 10 and brilliantly light. Her garden was planted. Her dahlias, as expected, were spectacular, and the delphiniums speared up, deeply blue on 5-foot stalks. They'd reach taller yet, she thought. They had the whole summer, all those long days washed with light. The day before, she'd buried her father at last. The town had come out for it, to a man. So had the media, but it was the town that mattered to Meg. Charlene had been calm, she thought. For Charlene, anyway. She hadn't even played to the cameras, but had stood, as dignified as Meg had ever seen her, with her hand gripped in the professor's. Maybe they'd make it. Maybe they wouldn't. Life was full of maybes. But she knew one sure thing. Saturday next, she would stand out here in the light of the summer night, with the lake and the mountains in front of her, and marry the man she loved. Tell me, she said. Tell me what you found out today when you went down to talk to Coben. He knew she'd ask. He knew they'd talk it through, not just because of her father, but because what he himself did, who he was, mattered to her. Ed switched lawyers. Got a hot shot from outside. He's claiming your father was self-defense. That Galloway went crazy and he feared for his life and panicked. He's a banker and he kept bankers' records. He's saying he won the $12,000 that suddenly showed up in his account in March of that year. But they'll have witnesses that say different, so it won't fly. He says he had nothing to do with the rest of it. Absolutely nothing. That won't fly either. There was a cloud of mosquitoes near the edge of the woods. They buzzed like a chainsaw and made him grateful for the bug dope he'd slathered on before coming outside. He turned his head to kiss her cheek. Sure you want to hear this? Keep going. His wife's turned inside out, enough so she's spilled enough to rip his alibis for the time of Max's death and Yukon's. Put that in with the yellow spray paint in his tool shed, and Harry stating Ed bought some fresh meat from him the day we had our little encounter with the bear. Weave it all together, you've got a tight little net. Added to all that is the fact that he held a gun to a tourist head, shot a state cop, and our chief of police. She gave his bicep a quick kiss. All of which, she added, was caught for the record by the NBC cameraman. She stretched, one long, sinuous move. Great TV. Our brave and handsome hero shooting the bastard's leg out from under him while he himself was wounded. Flesh wound. Standing that bastard down like Cooper in high noon. I'm no Grace Kelly, but I get hot just thinking about it. Gosh, ma'am, you slapped at a sparrow-sized mosquito that got through the dope. It weren't nothing. And I looked pretty damn good myself, even when you sent me to the damn sidewalk. You look even better now. The lawyers will try to work it, diminished capacity, temporary insanity, but it won't fly, Meg finished. Coben will wrap him up, Or the DA will. Got their teeth in it now.
If Coben had listened to you, you'd have wrapped him up without all that show.
Maybe.
You could have killed him.
Nate took a small sip of beer and listened to an eagle cry. You wanted him alive. I aimed to please.
You do please.
You wouldn't have done it either. Meg stretched out her legs, looked down at the worn toes of her ancient gardening boots. Probably needed new.
Don't be too sure, Nate.
He's not the only one who can bait. You were razzing him, Meg, pushing his button so he'd pull the gun off her and try for one of us.
Did you see her eyes?
No, I was looking at his.
I did. I've seen that kind of scared before. A rabbit with its leg caught in a trap. She paused to rub the dogs when they galloped up. If you tell me, no matter how many fancy lower 48 lawyers he hires, that he'll go to jail for a long, long time, I'll believe you.
He'll go to jail for a long, long time.
Okay then. Case closed. Would you like to take a walk down by the lake?
He drew her hand to his lips. I believe I would.
And would you then like to lie down on the bank of the lake and make love until we're too weak to move?
I believe I would.
The mosquitoes will probably eat us alive.
Some things are worth the risk. He was, she thought. She rose, held out a hand for his.
You know, in a little while, when we have sex, it'll be all legal. That going to take any of the spark out of it for you?
Not a bit. He looked up at the sky again.
I like the long days, but I don't mind the long nights anymore, because I've got the light. He wrapped his arm around her shoulder to draw her close to his side. I've got the light right here. He watched the sun, so reluctant to set, glimmer on the cool, deep water, and the mountains, so fierce and so white, mirrored their eternal winter on the summer blue.
We hope you have enjoyed our presentation of Northern Lights by Nora Roberts. Copyright 2004 by Nora Roberts. Read by Gary Littman. Performance copyright 2004 by Brilliance Audio, all rights reserved. For further information concerning this program or other Brilliance Audio titles, please call the following toll-free number, 1-800-222-3225, or visit our website at www.brillianceaudio.com. No part of this recording may be played for an audience or reproduced in any form. It may not be streamed, downloaded, broadcast, or copied without written permission. Address all inquiries to Brilliance Audio, Post Office Box 887, Grand Haven, Michigan, 49417.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.